Hello there, we are back with Tangle Tower. And, Tangle Tower and Flora's Tower, apparently. Now, let's just take a quick refresher course on all the lovely secrets we've uncovered. So, with Poppy, our, uh, our goth slash possibly actual skeleton, if that knows any indication, friend, friends. Yep, the pink tape used to belong to her. She used to be have a very different color scheme, but yes, the gramophone was cracked. Probably at the same time as the tape. We're still not sure what did that. Hawkshaw uh, basically wanted to be an astronomer, but didn't. Believes someone stole a golden beetle, and the lead suspect was our murder victim, which is interesting. So, Flora, yep, she used to own a rare bird. Was holding a feather, which was not anywhere, but it's normally kept inside her egg. The jeweled egg, not her egg. No, never mind. So that's yep. So the red. Yep, he switched out red paints with Freya's. Asked to borrow, said no. Yep. And finally, Fifi. Yep. Was Freya? Oh yes. It was Freya's diary hidden in her room because she wrote things which seemed suspicious. Oh yes. Because the diary. Where is the diary? Said it's back in the flesh this time. Was it me? Did I let it out? Maybe I should rip up that painting. Soul Bearer works. Impressive little thing. I have two now. Need two more. Found my way into the middle. Surprisingly simple compared to the harp. I saw them. All five. Eyes blacked out. Despite everything, I still have a promise to keep. I'll do my best. She could do with a little company. So, okay, that's unnerving. Oh, there's this which we just got, and should probably show to the people we've met before we go on to anyone else.
These drawings, Flora.
Is there a reason why you wanted us to see them?
Most likely. Now that's so. We still haven't talked to Percival, Penny, and Fitz in depth, but let's just cover everyone.
These drawings are quite precious. I'm surprised Flora let you see them.
What happened to the bird? Did it die?
I don't know. Seems likely, though, doesn't it?
To be honest, not really, since she's been staring out the window hoping it'll come back, which, I mean, maybe she just doesn't want to accept it, but not certain.
Freya drew these.
Yeah, I think so. There's a note on the back.
But she never showed them to me.
Well, I think it was a gift for your mother, like a private thing between Freya and Flora.
Oh. I feel bad for you, and also bad that we're going to have to show this to other people.
Does Flora still own that bird? Do you know? Don't think so. The drawings are from a few years ago. I see.
Suspicious of her. I wonder if the thing that was in the flesh, because I noted that portrait looked somewhat like Hawkshaw, but not certain, not necessarily that likely yet.
How sweet.
Okay, fair enough. So now let's see. Professor. I have a feeling I know what Fitz's secret might be, but we'll have to. Maybe I'm probably wrong, but we'll get there when we get there. So let's talk to the professor next. So let's. I think we've discussed everyone there. So
So which one is Tangle Tower?
What's that?
There are 2 towers, right? Flora's tower and your astronomy tower.
Neither?
so
Truly, I have no idea. You'd have to ask Flora.
She named the house?
The whole thing is a result of her squabbling with her family.
With
oh
Felix, you
yes,
mean?
the
Her husband?
No, her brother and
Remingtons.
sister, and her father. The Remington family was a rather tumultuous little unit. you
Yes,
see.
so we've gathered.
I don't think Flora has spoken with any of them in over a decade.
Well, at least we know which 2 towers are being referred to, Mr. Tolkien.
Not exactly a wealth of information, is it?
It's enough.
So we have that damaged tape, which contains
Isn't the process
humming
of
of
decay
some sort.
fascinating?
It's not really decaying. It's plastic.
It's becoming one with nature, all the same.
I don't think it is. That's kind of the problem with plastic pollution, but sure.
A very old statue indeed. I'd recommend you leave it well alone. The poor fellow's in bad enough shape as it is.
Okay, that wasn't threatening at all.
Where on earth did you find that?
It was in a bush outside. I think someone threw it away.
How peculiar.
Oh yeah, that seemed odd.
I find that painting to be in rather bad taste.
Oh, yeah?
The knife with real blood on it? The whole thing is rather vulgar. Is this important?
Possibly.
Here's
Probably
a thought.
not.
Do you suppose the paintbrush could be the murder weapon? After all, it
I've
was
considered
found
it,
at the
but
scene, right
apparently
next
the
to
game says
Freya's
no.
body.
I guess it's possible.
Curious little thing, isn't it? Do you know what she keeps in there?
Nothing. At the moment. It was empty when we opened it.
How bizarre.
Can't a woman keep an empty egg in her room?
I just hope you've never had cause to say that in other circumstances, for instance.
Pointer property originally, purloined by the fellows. Typical. I haven't seen that tape for a long time. Who broke it?
No idea.
Ah, well, possessions are fleeting, my friends. What's this?
It looks like it might be a telescope. Thought you might know something about it.
Well, it certainly is a telescope. It has a part there to screw onto a tripod, you see. It's rather small, though. I'm not sure you could see many stars with it.
No, probably not.
Fitz seems rather keen to grow things like this in his greenhouse, doesn't he?
What's wrong with that?
Well, you can't eat it. Makes you wonder why he bothers at all.
Because it's pretty and interesting. You're a scientist, an astronomer. I would have thought you'd understand that.
That's a very old book, isn't it? Looks like someone could have taken better care of it.
I like the look of a well-read book, better than one that's never been opened.
Ah, well put. These were drawn by Freya. She must have drawn that one of Hawkshaw rather recently.
I guess.
Poppy's
Let's
two
see.
closest friends. Freya looks so innocent there.
Uh, Speaking
Freya
of
was well
Freya's,
acquainted with the abstract, I'll say that much.
What does it look like to you?
To me, it's a big, red thing.
What a fascinating interpretation.
He's right, though. It is a big red thing.
speaking of Freya's, whether Freya is
A
innocent,
diary can be a wonderful
well, I suppose
outlet
you
for an
don't
outpouring of one's soul.
won't
How
be
do you
seeing
know it's a
inside
diary?
it.
I suppose I don't, but it does look like a diary. This is supposed to be Felix, is it?
I think so.
I see he's afforded himself considerable artistic license. This
Fair.
looks a little rushed, even by Felix's standards.
At
Still
least
not
he
certain
tried.
who the guy with the
Yes,
beard
I
is supposed to
suppose
be.
it's good for the old fellow to have a hobby. Keeps his mind from decaying, you know. Oh, you found a murder weapon?
Steady on. It's just
Careful,
a gardening
don't.
trowel.
Looks like a weapon to me.
And you look like you were casting a spell, so hell, what's your point? I mean, if you do have any spells that help solve this mystery, I definitely appreciate them.
Curious creature, isn't it? Some sort of amphibious bipedal fishman.
Playing a trumpet.
Playing a trumpet, yes.
Huh?
That's rather a small cage for 3 birds, isn't it? But then, aren't we all trapped in a cage?
No, next question.
What kind of flower is that?
We're not sure. I think it might be the only one of its kind.
Primrose would know. My wife was a floriculturalist. Best in the field.
Oh,
That's a flower joke, but she was.
that's an,
Interesting.
yeah, that is actually interesting, given Fitz is somewhat similar. Now, then there's this.
Well, now, that is most definitely none of my business. Quite possibly none of yours either.
Oh, yes.
Oh my. This is the first piece that Primrose ever learnt on the piano. Primrose, that is Poppy's mother. She passed it down to Poppy when she started teaching her how to play.
Poppy's piano teacher was her mother?
Of course. Warms my heart to know that after everything, Poppy still has it up on her wall. What a precious photograph. She hasn't changed a bit, has she?
Who?
Oh, if you don't know, perhaps I don't either.
I like how after the previous game they've made certain that every item has a bit of dialogue with every character, which has taken quite a bit of work, but I appreciate it.
So, we found some research. What's up with this golden beetle? Is this something you're studying?
I can't help you, I'm afraid. I think it must be something left behind by a previous inhabitant of Tangle Tower. I'm not the first scientist to ever walk these halls, you know.
Well, it wasn't in the halls. It was in your astronomy tower.
I've seen those earmuffs before. They're the ones Fitz always wears when he's out the front gardening.
Always wears?
Whenever I've seen him, yes. I think you may wish to adjust your threshold of what you consider to be a clue. Yes, very nice. Where is that bird of Flora's? It's been a while since I've seen it.
Okay. That felt there was some suspicious stuff there, but to me at least, but nothing apparently. Yeah, well, let's just check about everyone as well.
A listless soul
Nothing
drifting
apparently
through
worth.
the ether.
What's wrong with her?
Not sure. She's always been troubled. Comes from a dysfunctional family. I'd say you could ask her about it, but I think you might find that to be a bit of a dead end.
Oh, right. It's marked whether we talk to people. Yeah, but so there's a few things that there's kind of suspicious to me, but apparently nothing worth Grimoire getting. interested
he should
in.
learn to make the most of his lot in life. And he does have a lot in life.
You're talking about money?
Among other things, but yes, he currently has agency over a small fortune. That is, if he hasn't already squandered it or lost it.
You two don't get on?
Oh no, we're the best of friends.
Yeah. Given how many friends there seem to be in this tower, I'm not that may not be sarcastic.
Yes, the heiress of Tangle Tower. Goodness knows what'll happen when she takes charge. I dare say she'll confiscate my telescope and replace it with a microscope.
She doesn't seem to be the type to impress her will on others.
Still, keep an eye on her. Dangerously intelligent, that one.
You sound jealous. Wait, are you two science rivals?
Oh no, we operate on very different wavelengths. Literally. What do you want me to say? He's the gardener.
He's a member of the family.
Yeah, but not the Pointer family.
What happened to his parents, do you know?
His father, Flint, is Felix's brother. Strange man. Don't think anybody knows what happened to him, but he certainly doesn't live here anymore.
What about his mother?
Emily? I've not met her. She never actually married into the fellow family. Her relationship with Flint was, short-lived.
Right.
Nobody could deny her talent. She was remarkable, artistically gifted, but also highly intelligent.
Those two things aren't mutually exclusive, you know.
Was she ever interested in astronomy?
I don't think she was. The fault may well lie with me for failing to inspire her, but I think she was captivated by more tangible things here on Earth. My daughter loved her. Fiona, too. That said, in the last year or so, more and more I begun to notice her by herself, wandering the gardens at the most peculiar hours. She must have explored every inch of the grounds 100 times over. Quite a restless spirit, I think.
We should do
I'm
the same.
surprised she chose to live at Tangle Tower as long as she did. Hard to read, that one, but she seems to know what she's doing.
She's kind of mean.
You know, I simply assumed all detectives were sharp, rigorous, and thorough. Then, of course, I met you.
Oh, the pain.
I don't especially want to talk about myself. Introspection often leads to vanity.
Wait, does it?
Why don't we discuss the moons of Jupiter instead?
I don't think you have a
not sure
problem
if
in
we have
that
time.
in
Aren't
that
there, like,
direction.
10 of them?
83.
Yeah, we don't have time.
Ah, Penelope, our resident ornithologist.
Penny's your niece, is that right?
At this moment in time, till she marries the gardener.
She'll still be your niece.
But she'll depart from the world of the Pointers and join the Fellows. Like rats deserting a sinking ship. My
Yes.
Poppy, my pride and joy. Exceptionally talented pianist from a young age. Hold on. Why is she on your list of suspects?
Because she's a suspect.
Oh, no. I can personally vouch for her innocence. She
Oh,
never...
good for you.
Well, the truth is, she loved Freya very dearly.
If you don't mind me asking, what happened to Poppy's mother?
Primrose? She was Flora's sister, a Remington by birth. The playing field has never really been even since she left.
Where did she go?
Away. Away.
That's odd. It's very, very odd. But then nothing we can apparently... There's plenty suspicious about him, but apparently nothing... nothing to act on yet, so let's then head to Penelope. So let's talk about people first.
A fellow bird enthusiast. She's quite the expert, truth be told. Studied them professionally at one point. I think her father taught her.
Are you friends with Flora?
Hard to be.
A little bit.
A little bit friends.
She's one for the peace and quiet.
Yeah.
I dare say I'm a little too loud for her.
I can see that.
I do admire her, though.
So are most
really.
falling feathers,
Always
I
felt
suspect.
like she could have done better than settle for Felix.
Ouch.
I said it.
Well, let's talk about
I
it.
must say, I really don't care for the den of self-delusion that he's retreated into. People are better off when they just let themselves be themselves. Between you and me, I think Felix is secretly
Really?
rather miserable. She mostly ignores me, if I'm honest.
How come?
Well, we're not quite on the same intellectual level.
Oh. You don't need to.
No, it's quite all right. I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, that's something.
Isn't he strapping?
He is big.
And
Yes.
so brooding.
Kinda sulky, yeah.
I can never tell what's going on in that beautiful head of his.
It just sounds like you don't know him very well.
I don't remember asking for your input.
Hmm.
She'd sit in the aviary, first thing in the morning, and paint the birds. Sometimes she'd ask me their names.
Freya was interested in studying bird species too?
No, just wanted to know their names. Isabelle, Clementine, Myrtle, Lysandre, Genevieve.
Got it, thanks.
For my 21st birthday, she gave me a framed painting. All the birds from a single spring, with their names written underneath. I can't begin to tell you how much I've treasured it.
Sounds like you two were close.
I feel like I always struggled to articulate my admiration for her. But she had a way of understanding unspoken things.
I wish we had her to interpret Flora. Also, it probably says something about this game that when I accidentally click and stop the animations playing but still hear everything, I consider that a bit of a loss. The animation is pretty great.
She's a most unsavory little... She was incredibly rude about my appearance.
Which part? The giant bird arms, or...
If I were her, I'd go easy on the judgment of others. I mean, look at her. She looks like the ghost of a scarecrow. I just wish Uncle Pointer would tell her to behave herself.
Professor Pointer? Why him?
Oh, it was Uncle that called her in. She's his
Yep.
responsibility. Did you not know that? Can't say I've ever taken an interest in Uncle's astronomy. On occasion, I've dared to visit him in his tower, but I always regret it. It's all just a little too abstract for me.
What do you mean?
Oh, did you know the sun is apparently over 400,000 miles wide? Okay, so
Yes?
what should I do with that information? How does it help me?
Not
look at me.
go to the sun?
You're the one who memorized it.
Oh, she's beautiful. Who is she? Wait, is that me? Oh, did you talk to Poppy already?
Yeah, a little bit.
And did you make any notes of what she told you?
Yeah,
A fair
I
few.
did.
Lovely. Burn them. It'll all be lies.
Why would Poppy lie to us?
Oh,
Because that's what she does. She's a snake. Looks like one, too.
Don't you think you're being a little unfair, Penny?
She started it.
actually, kind of got a point with that nose there, but regardless, yeah, I have a sneaking suspicion what's going on between Penelope Fitz and Poppy, and oh, that's going to be interesting. But let's go through our clues.
It's probably quite impressive. To a visitor, fresh eyes and all that.
Not to you?
Try living in it for 20 years. The sheen wears off. If it wasn't for my fits, I'd have little reason to stay.
What about inheritance?
Yeah.
You're the next oldest pointer after your uncle, aren't you?
Well, thank you very much for phrasing it like that. But no, any money left in the Pointer family will pass down directly to Poppy.
Is that fair?
I couldn't care less, to be perfectly honest. Finally! I get to see a detective's case file.
That's a very specific thing to be excited about.
Well, only last week I asked that miserable hawkshaw woman if I could see her case notes.
I'm guessing she said no.
Would have been much more polite if she had just said no. Instead, she was quite rude to me. Accused me of being, what was it? A shallow sensationalist.
Can't imagine where she got that impression.
Goodness me. Poppy really doesn't take care of her belongings, does she?
It wasn't in Poppy's room. It was in the little pond in the garden.
Exactly! Hardly the place for it. I'm sure I've read about this creature somewhere. Don't remember anything about him playing the harp, though.
I think that might be an artistic interpretation, but, well.
Hello. Who penned this juicy little number?
We don't know. It's not signed.
An anonymous letter? Classic clue.
Yeah, can't see why someone would think of you as a sensationalist.
I doubt Freya intended it, but the overall effect is a little unsettling, don't you think? It's Flora that's the problem. She's an inescapably haunting presence, bless her. Freya doesn't take very good care of her pains, does she? But then she was always rather bohemian, had her own
I mean,
priorities.
there's been several things which are specifically cracked down one side, even if, I mean, I'm assuming that's plastic and not glass, otherwise well, though, probably glass.
Oh, that's rather sad.
Well, have to see.
Gaudy old thing, isn't it? Flora seems very fond of it. I've never understood why. But then I could say the same thing about her husband.
Heyo!
Poppy's gramophone.
Okay, she's got some
She's
decent
had it for a
burns.
long time. As a young child, she'd call it her mama phone, on account of it belonging to her mother.
That's cute.
Oh yes, adorable. Terrible.
You recognize it?
The color scheme. 3 different pinks. Obscene.
Oh, she's got a point.
I don't know what that is.
Fair enough.
Ooh, delightful. More of a gemstone than a fruit, isn't it?
Inedible, too, I think.
Yes. At one point, I thought Fitz might be growing them to sell them. But honestly, I think he just likes the way they look. Somebody taking an interest in extinct animals.
Extinct.
Oh, yes. The book is very old. Most of the birds in it are long gone.
Well, what about this bird, though? The ink dip.
This one? Well, it was thought to be extinct for a long time. Then one was found here at Tangle Tower.
So it's not extinct.
You misunderstand. It was the last one. The very last.
Oh.
Was. Oh, oh, right. And if it's the last one, yeah. Oh, yeah, because that's how biology works.
Very nice.
You've seen this before?
That was.
Yes.
All of them. Even this one of...
Yes. Freya was very talented, even at that age.
Do you know how old this photo is?
Not sure. Must be a couple of years at least. Sometime before Fiona settled on her current style.
Yes, you accuse someone else of being
I know a lot
judgmental.
of people rather like this painting, but it's a little much for me. I find it overbearing. And for some reason, it makes me feel bad for Freya. I think she was more troubled than we knew.
Most likely.
Ooh, a secret diary.
That's our guess, too.
Excellent.
That excited over the mere prospect. The prospect of a secret diary.
A bit vain to carve wooden figurines of oneself, isn't it?
Well, the little one, yes.
If I'm not mistaken, that little red and white one is supposed to be a bird of some kind. Oh, did Fitz show you that?
Not exactly.
We found it hidden under his bed.
Ah, right. Haven't seen this one in a while. He lives in the music room, doesn't he?
Currently.
I must say the girls are awfully well behaved today. I think they know we're in the presence of company.
They belong to you? Why do you keep them in a cage?
They need a special diet, particular treatment. I let them out to fly occasionally, of course. But they're all one of a kind. I couldn't let anything happen to them.
Do they have names?
Of course. Let me introduce you to Tabitha, Tamara, and Tatiana.
Hi!
I've already forgotten all three of those names.
Which one is which?
Oh, that's simple. Tatiana is the oldest, Tabitha is the most patient, and Tamara has the best sense of rhythm.
Glad we cleared that up.
What about the one on your head?
On my head? He's just my hat. He doesn't have a name. Who would name their hat? Yes, it's my... my flower.
You don't like it?
I'm no good at caring for plants. I forget to water them. Birds are much easier. They're a lot more vocal when they get thirsty.
Do you at least
There?
like the look of the flower?
The look?
The colors? The shape of it?
Between you and me, I think it's a little vulgar. That's rather strange now, isn't it?
We found it in your room.
Just lying around, was it?
Nope. You'd hidden it, but we found it.
We do that.
Who's the her in the message? And what's the deal with the petals?
It's really none of your business.
Oh, I think I know it is, and I think I know, but we'll get there when we get there.
Looks a little simple for Poppy, doesn't it? I thought she was a grade 12 or something.
I didn't know there were that many grades.
I'm sure they invented some new ones just for her. I can't decide what's worse. How she looks here, or how she looks now.
Do you know who this is? In the photo?
I mean,
Oh.
yeah,
Absolutely no idea. Not a fan of insects myself. Whose research is this?
I mean,
We were hoping
I'd imagine
you
your
might
birds
know.
are.
No, can't say I... Freya, perhaps. I know she was always very fond of grubby little things like this.
Noted.
Lovely. Oh, there used to be all
Sure.
kinds of birds here at Tangle Tower. The most fascinating breeds, all totally unique.
Used to be? There are birds all over the place.
Most of them are rather ordinary, I'm afraid.
What happened to the non-ordinary ones?
That is a very good question. It's that bird. But these must have been drawn at least a year ago. Oh, how sad.
Okay, that's...
There's something about the report of Fitz going up Pointer Tower. Something suspicious.
Let's ask him about it.
later, because there's
something about those
also...
petals we found in Penny's room.
Yeah.
Something suspicious.
Let's ask her about it.
Don't immediately want to...
Bird
Oops.
diagrams. Hand painted.
They're beautiful. Someone really knows their stuff.
Want to check, make just occurred to me I should probably check what's in some of these. Relation is drawn on the sheet. Yes, right. Oh, will not find it. So I suspect that might be referring to what the detective's looking for Point of the Beetle, but we'll have to see. is. Okay, so
I feel like I'm standing in a giant birdcage.
it's time for some grilling, I think.
So, yeah, we found this.
Oh, that's nothing.
You wrote, "Now I'll get her," on a piece of paper and hid it in your room. That's not nothing.
Actually, it's not the message I wanted to ask about. It's those red flower petals.
The petals.
They're from red roses.
They're from red roses. And there's only one place in Tangle Tower with red roses.
We need a clue. Something that shows the roses and who they belong to.
Okay, which is...
It's a drawing of Fitz and Poppy in the rooftop garden. See what Fitz is holding?
Mhm.
I can't imagine what you're getting at. But it doesn't matter.
Really?
I couldn't have taken anything from the rooftop garden. It's only accessible from Fitz's room or Poppy's room. How could I have taken something from a garden
You
to which
dove
I
into
have
your
no
fiance's
access?
room?
Is it really only accessible from those 2 bedrooms?
For most people, it would be. But don't forget, Penny's the resident ornithologist.
My dears, what are you accusing me of?
Using your bird to spy on people, I would suspect. One of Penny's birds was used to spy on Poppy and Fitz. Because they were... But it... One of these, I'm not certain
One of Penny's
which.
birds
No.
was used to spy on Poppy and Fitz and distract them. Almost. Maybe just change. One of Penny's birds was used
No.
to spy on Poppy and Fitz, but it didn't work. Almost.
Okay. It's
One of
down.
Penny's birds was used to spy on Poppy and Fitz and steal evidence from them. We know those two have been spending time together in the rooftop garden. I'm guessing you got paranoid. Wanted to know what they were up to.
I'm just not the jealous type. I would never
Of
suspect
course
Fitz
not.
of anything like that. Besides, Tabitha hardly ever leaves her cage. She's certainly never flown up to the rooftop garden.
We need a clue to compare with Penny's
Yep,
birds.
and we
Something
have
to
one.
prove one of them has been
Something
in the rooftop
fairly
garden.
simple.
Let's take a closer look at these.
Let's see. This yellow feather was left behind by Penny's yellow bird. Yep. When it visited the
This
rooftop
yellow
garden.
feather was left behind by Penny's yellow bird when it visited the rooftop garden.
I can't stand it! Knowing the 2 of them are hidden away up there in their private little garden. I couldn't risk spying on them myself, so I asked dear Tabitha to do it for me. I knew she'd be able to bring me back some evidence.
Sorry,
Really?
Penny, but are you not overreacting a little?
You don't understand. Fitz is slipping away from me. He's so
What
quiet
certainly
with
was
me
ever
these
in your
days. But being with
ever
Poppy
with you too
seems
much.
to bring him out of his shell. I don't know what he sees in her miserable little... I apologize. This really isn't your burden to bear.
Okay, that's definitely a thing. Yes. Whether or not she has any basis for believing that is yet to be confirmed, but let's talk with you about things which... Oh, right, we have to talk with you about things. That's good, we can get straight onto the
Did Freya draw
suspicion.
these? Yeah. There's a note on the back, too.
She was even closer to Flora than I realized.
So, it's...
So, Fitz, I have a report that you were seen sneaking up Pointer Tower, holding a knife.
That's not right. I don't go into Pointer Tower. I don't own a knife. And I don't sneak. Was it Fifi who told you
That
this?
last one I can
How
believe.
did you know that?
A guess. She doesn't like me very much. But yeah, she was mistaken. Maybe she wasn't wearing her eye lens thing.
What do you think, Grimoire?
I think she did, but was holding something
Fifi
else.
did see Fitz, but he was holding something else.
So, if it wasn't a knife, what was it?
Well, if I had to guess, I'd probably say this trowel.
What about this?
Ah, that.
Is it yours?
It was a gift. It's sentimental. I have no reason to take it up Pointer Tower. I don't use it at all.
Yes. So... it was used... It's the only thing that can destroy Penny. It's part of a matching... Used to look after a potted flower in Penny's room, maybe?
An ornate
Yes.
trowel is used by Fitz to look after a potted flower in Penny's room.
That flower.
Yes.
I've never seen it before.
We need a clue to compare to that flower. Something that proves its connection to Fitz.
It's, the flower itself, that proves
We
it.
need a clue that's got some connection.
That's in the same pot as this.
Let's take a closer look at these.
Flower, pot and soil in the garden. Flower's room matches the pot and soil found
The
in the
pot
garden.
and soil in Flora's room matches the pot and soil found in the garden. Nope.
Oh, okay. Found and the greenhouse. Blech.
The pot and soil in Flora's room matches the pot and soil found in Fitz's greenhouse.
Oh, no, not
Almost.
Flora's room.
Maybe.
In Penny's room.
The pot
That.
and soil in Penny's room
That was
matches
dumb.
the pot and
Dumb of
soil
me.
found in Fitz's greenhouse. Let me guess. Penny's flower was originally a gift from you, Fitz. There's no way it's a coincidence.
No way what's a coincidence.
The flower. It looks exactly like Penny.
It took me a long time to breed.
Oh yeah.
I wanted the colors to be exactly right.
Actually,
That's
notice.
some gift.
huh.
Turns out Penny isn't particularly interested in looking after plants. So I go into her room every now and again. When she's not there, water the flower, change the soil. Just trying to keep it alive.
Okay. So that's... I think everyone talked to about everything. And yet we still don't know the professor's suspiciousness, despite him being extremely suspicious. Anything we've missed? No. So just make sure we've talked to everyone else about everything. Oh, we haven't talked to her about... No, wait, no, yeah, we need to talk to her first and then decide which which we have, yes. Okay. So we talked to him. Detective. Yes, okay. Yep, got everything from her so far. Felix. I'll say this room, he's got some good theme music. Talk to her about everything, so what? That is the mystery. Maybe there's a... Let's see. We should search these. Okay, right. That's useful. Useful thing to... I mean, useful that we have that kind of clue, so...
It's too cloudy to see any stars right now.
It's also daytime.
It's a chart of the solar system. Which planet are you from, Sally? It's a chart of the solar system. Which planet?
Did we
We already solved it.
Yep, we did. So...
A bell jar. It's empty.
What do people normally keep in bell jars?
Other than bells, you mean? Trinkets.
They're clearly gizmos. Pretty. What is it?
It's clearly some kind of large device.
You're not wrong.
Thank you, detective. Is there something about...
There's something kinda disappointing about this room. I just expected a bit more from an astronomy tower.
Oh, does it not compare to all the other astronomy towers you've been to? It's tidier than my desk. The notebook is untouched. It's completely blank.
So, even the most well-used notebooks start off blank.
Okay, we...
It's tidier than my desk.
So, even the most well-used
A picture frame.
with no picture.
Is there...
It's tidier than my desk.
So, even the most
so-
well-used notebook.
Oh, wait a second, is that...
There's something kinda... I just
Oh, does it not compare to...
Is
There's
that...
something kinda...
Oh, does it not...
No, is it there we're
Trinkets.
looking at?
They're clearly giz...
Oh, the telescope,
Every
maybe?
astronomy tower needs a telescope.
I wanna try.
Oh! I never clicked on the telescope, apparently. I am dumb.
It's the tower opposite this one. You can see right into Flora's room.
Yes,
Not by accident.
almost. Magnifications.
I can see Flora, but she's not looking this way.
Magnification's
She's
almost enough to see
looking
some
up.
expression.
Behind her is the backside of the easel holding Freya's unfinished painting. I can't really see anything behind it. Not from this angle.
Is that a window?
I think it is.
Is there another room above Flora's room?
We should check that next time we're over there.
Interesting.
It's the tower opposite this one. The rooftop garden.
Psst.
The rooftop garden is right underneath Flora's window. I can see the doorway. It leads into the hall. The door itself is on the floor, knocked off its hinges. I can just about see the gramophone.
Or half of it, maybe.
It's that little plant Flora keeps on the window ledge.
Don't you think it would fall off? In the wind.
Maybe it's glued down.
Most likely.
Isn't this supposed to be an astronomy telescope? I'm pretty sure you need to see the sky for astronomy to work.
I can't move it. I think this is just how it's set up.
Odd.
There's something about Pointer's astronomy habits. Something suspicious.
Let's ask him about it.
Later, I also want to check for that. Okay, apparently we just get into the room. So let's see what we can find here.
Just dusty junk. It's a statue of a wolf, standing up straight, like a man.
You know, there's a name for that.
I know.
It's not quite as dusty as everything else up here. Also,
It's
not
the murderer!
It's stuffed. Someone painted out the window.
Do you think it was done recently?
No idea. Either way, it's pretty suspicious. At least the moths are kept well fed. Nothing catching my interest.
I'm sorry, is this spooky attic boring you?
Kind of.
What's that?
What is that?
Not sure. Some kind of reel?
Looks like it might attach to something.
Winch of some sort. Along the length of fine red rope. Interesting.
Where's that light coming from?
Oh, it's just daylight, I think.
Low.
There's a decent gap between those floorboards.
What's that?
Is that what I think it is?
I'd imagine so.
Is that what I think it is? Is that what I think it is? Is that what I think it is? Is that
Yep.
what I think it is?
Interesting.
What's in that little box? I bet it's bones. A skull, at least.
You know, maybe I won't open it.
Some
Nothing
detective.
catching my interest.
I'm sorry, is this...
Kind of. Nothing catching my interest.
Sorry.
Kind of.
That.
Just dusty junk.
Okay. Noted. Let's show this reel to everyone just for completion's sake before returning to
Do you know
Pointer.
what this is?
Guess not.
I suspect that, well, not the exact silence, but I expect that reaction's going to be fairly common, but this is good to make
Hey,
sure.
What is it?
We don't know. We were really hoping you would.
My friends, shed your hope and let it fall free like sandbags from a hot air balloon.
That's the most depressing idiom I've ever heard.
Yes, I think it was used to lower something into the maybe into the room when the murder. I'm not certain how, but what's
Is
this?
this yours, Fifi?
I do not recognize it. And besides, I would have no use for such a thing. Perhaps it could be used to hang wet laundry?
Was that a joke?
Yes.
I really hope she isn't the murderer because I like her.
What is that?
I'm not sure. It looks like it attaches to something else.
Why don't you go back and double check the area you found it? Maybe you'll find the rest of the something else.
I'm not so sure about that.
Agreed, given how it seems to have been cut.
I don't know what that is.
Me neither.
Me, 3. Oh, sorry. I thought you said me too.
Where did you find this? It was in the attic.
You know
Oh.
what it is?
Huh. I forgot we even had an attic.
Well, she seemed to recognize it the most, but we're not certain about that.
Is that for sewing?
Maybe?
That
We have no
sounded
idea.
weird. So,
What's this? Is it a clue?
We don't actually know. But Grimoire picked it up, so now he has to pretend it is.
That's how it works.
okay, so that's all that, but let's get to this, shall we?
So, Professor, what interests you about astronomy exactly?
It's not a matter of being interested. Once you expand your mind to the wider universe, it cannot be unexpanded.
Mm-hmm. And
Contracted,
how
I think.
long have you been an astronomer?
I really don't like to give
A
exact
few,
values
a few
unless I'm
days.
sure
I
can
mean,
quantify them.
a
Convenient.
long time.
Why do you ask me these things?
I have a theory about you, Professor.
Oh? Go on.
Because a meteor is heading straight for Earth.
You're not really interested in astronomy at all.
What could you possibly mean by that?
I think you're interested in a slightly different field of research.
I don't have time for tiny, insignificant insects. My studies focus only on the inconceivably large and the unimaginably far away.
Right. That's why you like using your telescope so much.
Yes, naturally. My little portal into another world.
Yeah, about that.
Pointer's telescope was actually looking at the crime scene. And not up at the sky.
Pointer's telescope was actually looking at the crime scene and not up at the sky.
First, you accuse me of being a lowly entomologist. Now you're accusing me of, what, spying?
Are you spying?
Why would I need to spy on Flora?
Why? Because you lost your golden beetle specimen, and it's made you paranoid. You think somebody stole it from you.
Might not have been Flora you were spying on. Might have been Freya.
It's a very precious specimen. Incredibly rare. Valuable in ways you could never understand. Freya was always sneaking around. Both towers and in the gardens too. She was definitely up to something.
So, this next question is important. You were looking to Flora's room around the time of the murder. Did you witness the crime, Professor?
No, I didn't. When I looked into the room, Flora was already lying on the floor.
Flora? You mean
Wait.
Freya?
No, Flora. She was lying by the window. I couldn't see Freya at all. It was fairly dark. The telescope isn't at a very good angle. That's why I decided to head over there myself. I needed to know what was going on.
This changes your statement, doesn't it?
No, everything I told you in my statement was true.
Apart from the reason you left your tower in the first place.
Right.
Interesting.
Let's go over what we know about the crime scene.
Let's go now. Down the stairs. And okay.
Freya was definitely up to something.
Something to do with the statue in the garden, I think.
Maybe we should go back and check. And we could have missed something.
Wait. That wasn't there before.
This wasn't here before.
Okay, thank you. I was
What is
worried.
it?
It's a little wooden toy. Looks kind of like a crab.
Now the very, very important and useful crab button.
There's a note stuck to the back.
What does it say? Grimoire?
This is my new friend. He likes music. Simple melodies will move his soul. Best of luck, you two. Freya. Dark ink lays beneath the sheet of glass. Interesting.
What do you think? Is it really from her?
How can it be?
Why don't we check the handwriting with Freya's diary?
Good idea. Hold on.
Well,
It's a perfect match.
well, it's confirmed. We have a ghost helping us.
Let's keep this to ourselves for now.
What about the little wooden toy thingy?
Maybe we can put it to some kind of use.
Oh. Unfinished business. Interesting. Let's look at this. That looks very familiar.
I'm still not sure about this thing.
Should we take another look?
I feel like it can. It's... Those shapes look very much like the crab thing, the ink that the crab thing is showing, but can't tell the order yet.
We know a little more about the crime scene now. So, what do you think? Was Freya stabbed by her own painting?
I don't think so. Let's see. Blood from the paint. Well, we know blood. A tip of the existence of magic to resemble a bloody knife. Because,
Blood from the paint pot was used to paint the red tip of the painted ink dip feather to resemble a bloody knife.
I think you're right. Can't decide if I'm disappointed or relieved.
I have a question. Why?
Either it's a very strange coincidence, or somebody set it up.
Somebody deliberately put blood in the paint pot and hid that feather after the crime. Why? To distract us?
Possibly.
Well, it worked.
Possibly.
Flora's the only person who could have hidden the feather, unless someone took it from her.
Let's go over what we do know. The door was locked the whole time. It stayed locked until Fitz kicked it down. Normally, it can only be opened from the inside. Pointer said he couldn't see Freya from his telescope, but he did see Flora lying by the window.
So whatever got Freya got Flora too?
Except Flora survived. She didn't get a stab wound like Freya did.
Hold on. If there was no knife, then what did stab Freya?
It could be anything. It might not even be important.
How is it not important?
Right now, I'm less interested in the what, and more interested in the how.
It's
The angle of
locked
Freya's
door
wound suggests she was stabbed
mystery,
at a perfect right angle.
but
That is, from directly in front of her. But she was standing right up by the canvas.
Somehow,
I
Freya
haven't
ended up
an
lying on
idea
her
of
back,
how.
still perfectly in line with a painting.
Maybe something went through it.
Through the painting? Wouldn't that leave a hole?
Okay, well, how about this? How do we know Freya was stabbed before she fell over? Maybe her being stabbed and her falling over are completely unrelated.
That's actually quite astute. Not necessarily. So let's have a look up here.
The outline of... There's a single patch of no real sign.
That's weird.
What?
Her feet were right up by the canvas.
So?
So she was probably standing really close to the canvas.
Let's check the case file again.
And what cracked the gramophone? Maybe... For some reason, the idea of some sort of sonic boom came to mind, but that would probably have been noticed. Or explosion of some sort.
Where's that light coming
That's
from?
just daylight. There's a decent gap between... Is that what I think it is? Is that what I think it is?
Yes. So I got a distinct... Getting some pretty... Wait a second. Someone cracked both and also broke the glass in here.
Oh, whatever it is, it's...
Well, it is gotta practice.
What's with all the broken glass? Sheet music.
That's a lot of notes.
Probably while they're on the floor. Oh, whatever it is,
Well, it's gotta
what's with
practice.
all the broken glass? All right, you got
Spooky murder.
Spooky Murder Mansion.
Yes. So, hang on, minus if we... Let's- Okay, Let's just listen to these two tapes again, see if that... I doubt it would. Really? Oh,
Weird.
It's someone humming a tune.
Oh! Okay. Interesting. So it's... This toy is triggered by music somehow.
It's piano music.
Let's listen all the way through. It may or may not trigger the thing directly, but... certainly. So let's see. There was a bird. So presumably this is referring. The symbols refer to where what the tunes are played on, or come from, or what's making the what's making the tunes. So. Okay, that's... yes, the sound of a cassette tape ending. Lovely bit of nostalgia there. So, let's see, I remember there was a tune from these birds. Bird song makes that. Somehow, still not entirely sure how that works, but we'll have to. But I'm not gonna question it, so.
It's one of those big pianos with the open lids.
Don't touch it.
Why not?
Might be haunted.
I just need to.
It's one of those big. Why not?
Might be haunted.
Who plays the violin?
It's pretty. So I'm guessing nobody.
So where is the melody I need to... No, can't just ask her to play, presumably. Oh wait, did I not ask her about that?
Fine.
Oh, right.
Can you play the tune for us?
Sure. It's literally 8 notes. I have it memorized.
Yeah, there we go. So. Ring. And what was the final symbol?
I'm still.
Should we take another look?
Bell. A bell of some description.
Let's come back.
Oh, wait a second. A bell on a door. That's what it
That's
is.
all 4 melodies, I think.
So, what do we do with them?
Should we go back to the gardens again?
I think that might be prudent, yes.
Let's try this again.
So,
You know, I think we might be.
oops, well, know roughly what that's going to be. That, then that, and then there.
That's gotta be right.
Nothing. Maybe it's broken.
Wait, do you hear that?
Hello.
Where do you think it goes?
Down.
Well, things have been going down fairly sharply already, so I don't suppose it can make much difference. Underneath. Let's see. Got some
Thirsty?
chemicals of some
It looks like
description.
they're being boiled, but the liquid is ice cold.
Okay.
A cracked glass tank with 9 little rooms.
Freya did have that.
Each one has 1 or 2 insects inside.
That insect thing. The insect, the insect glass thing in our room.
I can't tell if they're still alive.
I like that you called them rooms.
Oh,
What's in
those don't appear to be alive.
It's a little diagram of a beetle, with some incomprehensible notes scribbled next to it.
That's weird.
What?
It looks really normal compared to the beetles behind the glass.
9 beetles. All different, all dead.
Poor little guys.
There's a bunch of notes written all around them. It's mostly numbers. No idea what they mean. 9 beetles.
Looks
There's a bunch mostly
worryingly
numbers.
golden.
9 beetles. There's mostly numbers.
So I can't even read all of the numbers.
9 beetles. It's mostly numbers. 9 beetles. It's mostly numbers.
Forensic Entomology, Volume 3.
That's an incredibly specific area of study.
Bugs. Big ones.
Looks like they're made of metal.
Some
Rows of plants, growing in wide wooden boxes.
What color is the soil?
It looks black, but it's too dark to tell.
not blue. Okay.
A glass tank. It's full of plants.
There's a layer of condensation on the inside. Is that a lab coat?
Warning, hand wash only. Size, small.
Huh. Sounds familiar.
It's a hatch.
But we're already in the basement.
Depends on your perspective.
Let's not go down just yet. We still haven't explored this room properly.
Uh-huh.
It's so dark. I can barely tell what I'm looking at. Hand-drawn entomology charts. It's so dark. I can barely tell what I'm looking at.
Okay, let's finally get to this then.
Is it locked?
Seems likely, doesn't it?
Closer.
Weird looking safe.
I'm pretty sure the latches can slide into the middle.
Okay, so let's see. There's got to be one there. Let's see. But let's see if there's one. Ah, right. Okay, so. Okay, we have ourselves a puzzle. There's one down here as well. Oh, that looks right. So it's either one here or it has to be here, but that doesn't. Unless can't get. But I think it has to be there, but I don't know what. Unless I put that there, which would let me put that there, which could put that there, then that there. Maybe work? No, I think we're
Reset the puzzle.
overcomplicating it there, but like, this has got to... Okay, that's got to go there. That's... I don't see how it wouldn't. So, I'm pretty certain that should go to there. Which... That would mean that could only go to there. This can only... unless... No, because that covers that, so most likely go to there. That to there. But I don't think... Unless that's there to just cover that. Get it over to... there, maybe? But then that could only go to there, which it was established it probably doesn't, so... Unless... no... So... let's try to go from here. So that seems unlikely, so that probably goes to there, I think. Or does it go to... But then that can't really... there's nothing... there isn't one there, so then that must... that goes over it, so that can't be right either. I'm probably being very dumb, but I'm not really seeing how this works. Well, I see how it works, I'm just not seeing how it works, if that makes any sense. Well, that's got to go there. Surely.
Nothing.
I think we're trying to make a path between the key
Yeah,
and locksmith.
I'm sure, but... that makes a loop, so it doesn't really help us. And that does... no. This... there... then... there, perhaps? Or... but then that doesn't... unless... no, because that covers that, so that won't... oh. So that won't be it, so I'm pretty sure. Yeah, no. No, unless... no.
Reset the puzzle.
This is a tricky one, at least to someone of my limited brain capacity. Definitely have to be to there, then then there maybe? There or there, because then that could go to there. Then that to there. So that goes around and then to there. I think
Oh,
that'll
that's
do it.
Nice work.
Yeah,
Anything
that was very
inside?
clever.
Yeah, more research.
Secret research. A folder containing Venus diagrams. 1. A unique flora and fauna that was the byproduct of a number of as yet identified chemicals. 2. These chemicals are continually present in the water, forming clouds and filling the lake. This causes a variety of mutations in plants and animals. 3. Smaller creatures such as arachnids, insects, mollusks, amphibians, and crustaceans are the most affected. However, the chemicals may travel up the food chain and cause mutations in birds and reptiles. As far as we know, mammals remain completely unaffected. I would question that.
Whose research is this? This is some seriously in-depth research.
It's impressive, but it's incomplete. There's a section missing.
That would be number 4.
So, this is Pointer's secret lab.
Definitely seems like he's the one using it.
I guess not a lot of people know about the secret entrance.
Right. But if Pointer's the only one who comes down here, why would he need to lock his research in a safe? Who is he hiding it from?
He's just paranoid, especially about his golden beetle.
Yes.
What do you think he's trying to do exactly?
I'm trying to breed the golden beetle in the
Pointer
underground
has
laboratory.
been trying to breed the golden beetle in the underground laboratory.
Why? Because it's rare?
Because it's gold?
Is that it?
I think so. I don't think he cares about entomology any more than he cares about astronomy. He just wants to get one over on Felix. If he can breed his own gold, suddenly Poppy's inheritance is looking pretty,
Infinite.
Hmm.
Might explain why he was so
Possible.
worried about losing the beetle. Maybe somebody did steal it.
might have been Freya after all. We know she was trying to get through the secret door in the garden.
She might not have known what was down here, though. Maybe she was just curious.
Curious, sure, but not naive. I reckon she knew what was going on.
I think we're still missing the bigger picture. There's no way this is all just about a beetle. We're done.
Ready to go down? Again?
Yeah, as far as I'll ever be. Does anyone else hear laughter from down below, or is it just me?
Do these puddles worry you?
Why?
That's lake water, but it's indoors.
I see your point.
Old cardboard boxes.
How exciting.
Oh, but there's more. They're also damp and empty. It's an old coat rack. Looks thoroughly neglected.
2 cloaks, and a green hat draped on top for good measure. Gives off kind of a dungeon vibe.
What do people actually use chains for?
Nothing good.
Basements don't normally have windows?
We're at the bottom of the lake. We must
Yes.
be.
Right. But if that's the lake bed, why does it look like that?
Like what?
White, smooth,
Because the water's
plants.
weird.
no anything. That's not what a lake looks like.
Where are we?
A single book on a little makeshift table.
This is creeping me out slightly.
Why?
I think it's a children's book.
Okay, we've got the ink dip, possibly boggy. Soul Bearer, crowd with deed of silver snake. Huh.
We're too late. This photograph has been stabbed.
Why? By what?
Not sure. Some kind of metal stabbing thingy.
Metal rod. Static photograph. What is it? Aha! Hello! Other end of the winch. So what most likely happened was that Freya fell. This was dropped onto her and then pulled back up with the winch.
So what's the photo?
That would be... Oh, so that's who the bearded man was. Flora's father. And somebody stabbed him. Cool! Cool!
Do you know who it is? In the photo?
Let's see, is there anything else?
Old cardboard.
exciting.
They're also empty. A single book.
This is,
Why?
I think it's a children's book.
Okay.
It's an empty bookcase.
Something tells me it's been empty for a long time. This room looks old. Like, old.
It makes the rest of the house seem relatively modern.
There's a roll of paper up there.
I'll see if I can reach it.
Let me guess. Blank.
It's a misted mansion. Interesting. But without the towers.
Hold on. Have we been to all of these rooms already?
No, we haven't been to the study.
Wait.
I know what you're thinking. And no, we never went in there.
How did we miss it?
A bedroom.
Penny's room, I think. A bedroom.
That's Fifi's room, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's the aviary. Music room.
The grand hall.
What's that thing in the middle?
I think it's that big glass tube.
Ah, that's how
The
you
library.
get up there.
Storage.
It's Freya's room.
Right. And X marks the spot in the sky.
This seems pretty significant.
Agreed.
Yes, it does. So, like,
Did you notice how much light this room has? For a room with one candle?
It's all coming through the window.
I'm pretty sure lakes are supposed to be darker at the bottom, not lighter.
Why is there a room down here anyway? And why is it so much older than the rest of Tangle Tower?
We still don't really know why people came to live here in the first place.
Maybe they just
I'm
wanted to get
getting
rich.
an idea.
Like Pointer with his beetles.
I feel like the Remingtons came here for the lake, for what was in it.
Well, given what
empty, though.
Richard was interested
empty than a
in,
normal
I
lake
have
would
an
be.
unpleasant suspicion.
It is now, yeah. Maybe we're too late.
Strange
man.
photograph.
In the photo, he reminds me of something from one of our clues.
Yes, he does.
Felix made a little model of him for Flora.
Yeah, it makes sense when you know who he is.
Lord Remington.
Lord Remington.
Remington. That makes him Flora's father, meaning the girl in the photo is...
Yeah, it's her. See the bird, too.
I never would have guessed. Times sure do change.
I don't know. I don't think she looks so different.
Let's head back up to the Grand Hall. I want
Yes,
to find that last room.
let's...
Wow, it's dark all of a sudden.
How long were we down there?
Oh, that's pleasant.
This must be it. This thing goes all the way up.
How are we supposed to get up there?
Hang on, it's pitch black, but I think there's a switch.
Okay. To the hidden room. Hidden heart! Oh, 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 good. Yes, I was afraid of that.
Hooks. Big hooks. Those aren't bird cages.
Some of them are disconcertingly large.
At least they're all empty.
I don't think it is. There's the silver snake.
Dragon?
Snake?
Worm?
That's the one.
There's the soul.
Is that a crab?
It's got a
Tangle.
translucent exoskeleton. You can actually see its insides.
Also, crabs normally have 2 claws, right? Not 3? Ugh. You sure we should be touching it?
Grimoire, don't you think it looks familiar?
Very much so. But we'll
This
come
crab
back
really
to the...
Yeah, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think I've seen it more recently.
There's...
Some kind of fish and a bird skull, I guess?
If that's a bird skull, we're talking about a 15-foot bird here.
Well, how about we stop talking about it?
there's a...
Centipede? Millipede? How many legs has it got?
Too many.
Agreed.
Those aren't.
Some of
At
them,
least they're all
are you
empty.
sure that's a good thing?
There's a...
Who are all the people in this photo?
Not sure, but it looks like someone didn't like them very much. Their eyes have all been crossed out.
That he looks familiar. I think that might be Richard Remington, cryptid hunting friend. Dusty. Okay.
That photo is important. I'm sure of it.
And there's this.
A wooden pinboard hung up on one of the chains.
Looks like there's a couple of things missing from it.
I thought that painting looked somewhat like her. Underneath the silhouette of a cloaked figure. Okay. There's
Do those look like scratch marks to you? On the glass?
Yeah, they're on the inside.
there's
An axe and some kind of hunting rifle, mounted on the wall.
Honestly, doesn't look like they've been moved in a few years.
I'm more worried about the third one.
The third one?
The one that
Yep.
isn't there.
pickaxe.
Nice chair.
It's still warm.
Maybe it's just heat from the incinerator.
Maybe. Coffee table, half-empty wine bottle, lamp left on. I'm gonna say someone's been using this room.
Someone complacent enough to leave their notebook lying around.
Fifth Arm battle is located finally. Can't say I harbored any optimism, but still somehow disappointed. No better than the rest of them. Took my misted friend into the music room for experiments. It works, perhaps too well. Laboratory was another disappointment, all that effort for what? He's even more short-sighted than I could have guessed. And to the bottom, nice view. It's been mostly cleaned out, but I have what I need. She got in, she was careful, nothing was moved, but I know it's time. Okay, there's...
An incinerator built into the wall. It's still pretty hot.
Is there anything left inside?
It's mostly ashes, but yeah, there's something.
A feather, oh dear. That's... Not great.
Someone's been using this room.
You think?
A wooden stool. Crumpled up paper.
Is there anything written on any of it?
Not really. It's mostly blank.
Then,
You know, in any normal room, this thing would be my main concern. In here, though, it barely makes the top 3.
it's okay, so now let's look at
Is
that
that a
crab.
It's got a
Also, crabs.
Let's
This
just,
crab really.
That little
Yeah,
weird-
but I think I've seen it more recently.
yep. So let's look at this is the children's book. So pointing there and both open. Okay.
Is that a crab?
It's got a-
Also, crab. I guess that's wrong.
I don't think we need to guess.
What do you mean?
We have all the information we need in our case file.
Nothing.
I'm sure I've seen this thing. This crab really.
That
Yeah, I
looks-
think I've seen it more
Can we?
recently.
It'd be nice if we could check from within there, but yeah, that's so it's closed and it's. Oh, is it point? Was that
Is that a
It's got a-
pointing the wrong
crab?
way? No, it's closed. Then
I guess that's
I don't
wrong.
think
What
we.
do you mean?
We have all the information we need in our case file.
Nothing.
I'm sure I've seen this thing.
oh, hang on. Well, what were the
This crab really.
That-
Yeah,
I
I think I've
what were
seen
the
it more recently.
base limbs positions? Ah, that right. I see.
Is that
It's got a-
also crabs?
So it's that and that, then that and that.
I guess
I
that's.
don't think
What do you
we
mean?
have all the information we need
Is
in our
that
case.
that then?
Perfect. What's this?
Something somebody didn't want us to
It's
find.
kind of like a crossbow. Yep. Crossbow. Okay.
What is it?
So,
I don't get
study.
it. This room is in the original building plans for the mansion, but nowadays it's some big secret?
It's not a secret to everybody.
I mean, it's
At least one other person
full of
still
the
knows about this room.
full of the
The way
remains
the
of
notebooks
cryptids.
are
I'd
on the
I'd say
table
that's cause for
makes me think
secrecy.
it's someone who has the room all to themselves.
Whoever it was, they left more than just the notebook. There's a whole design project on this pinboard. Feels like someone put quite a bit of effort into it.
It's a shame there are things missing from it. I'm betting it'd make more sense if we could see it all together.
We can.
That might not be impossible, you know.
So that will presumably be that, and this will be that. Apparently, she is some form of
The
cryptid or
painting from Freya's
something.
room and those sketches. Did Freya design Detective Hawkshaw's clothes? What kind of sense does that make?
I don't think that's why Freya made that painting, but it may have been why somebody took a photo of it to use as reference. And as for those sketches of Hawkshaw, I don't think Freya actually drew them. It was somebody else, someone with less of a talent for art.
Doesn't exactly narrow it down. Should we go ask Detective Hawkshaw about all this?
I'm not sure. I still don't know what's really going on.
Weapon.
Was someone trying to hide it? From us?
I don't know, but it looks incomplete to me. I want to know what happened to the rest of it. Where are the other parts?
I'm gonna guess
We found them
them
already.
Right, so that's crossbow.
I think that might attach the crossbow, but not this part of the crossbow. I think that might not
yeah.
this part.
So how do I get back to? Oh right, that's what the lens is for. Okay, so yeah, fired a crossbow from the attic down after she fell over.
What do you make of it?
Not sure.
I
Let's
am.
keep an open mind.
You don't think the crossbow is the murder weapon?
Oh no, the crossbow is definitely the murder weapon.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean we've solved the mystery. Another photograph.
Their faces are all crossed out with some kind of black ink.
That's weird.
Oh, you think so?
No, I mean, something I just realized. Sally, did we meet any of these people here at Tangle Tower?
Well, the woman on the left looks a little like Poppy, but her style is way different. And at
Yep.
first, I thought the guy on the top right was Felix, but now that I look at it, I don't think it is him.
So we
Time to solve this.
agreed.
All right.
Machinations
Break
of
out the notebook.
murder.
Time to put it all together.
Let's start with this. It's an arrow for the crossbow, and it matches Freya's wound. It's the murder weapon. I'm sure of it.
Despite the fact it doesn't have any blood on it, and it wasn't found anywhere near the crime scene.
It was cleaned, then it was hidden. I don't think
Yep.
anybody expected us to get down to that room at the bottom of the lake.
Okay, so Freya was shot by a crossbow. Where was it fired from?
Fired from above.
It was
Frey.
fired from above Freya.
Above, huh?
Yeah, our diagram doesn't show everything. Let's add in the rest of the crime scene.
The attic.
Perfect hiding place. We even found a part of the murder weapon up there. The reel was used to pull the arrow back up through the crack in the floorboards.
Explains why we never found a weapon at the crime scene, I guess.
The murderer must have dropped the reel in the attic. I'm guessing they were in a hurry to escape.
Wait. The arrow was fired through the crack in the floorboards?
Yeah, it's directly above where Freya was found lying on her back.
Nope. Doesn't add up. It would have missed her if she was still standing up by the painting.
Ah, right.
Unless
Yes, Freya was already
Freya
lying
was
on her
already
back.
lying on her back before the arrow was fired.
I think so too.
She was just relaxing. She'd fallen unconscious since Flora had apparently done the
unconscious.
same.
Something in the room caused Freya to fall unconscious.
The gramophone.
Right.
But the gramophone by itself can't do that.
It was the music being played.
What?
Let's
No.
try that again.
But the gramophone by itself can't do
There
that.
was something in the gramophone.
Something
Yes.
small.
Something that would crack it and the tape? Something small. Golden needle, maybe?
Pointer's research says
Yes.
it can emit an incredibly loud hiss when it feels threatened. Poppy and Fitz both said they heard a loud noise around the time of the murder. Neither of them had
Right.
any idea what it was.
This seems a little far-fetched. Is it really loud enough to knock someone out?
No, I don't think so. Not by
Not on
itself.
its
But don't
own.
forget, it was being amplified by the shape of the gramophone. Now, I don't think we're purely talking about volume either. It might just be a particular type of frequency.
This is getting kinda scientific. Since when do you know anything about the effects of weaponized audio frequency?
I don't, but I think someone else does. Do you remember that statue we found in the music room? The horn it's playing. It's a pretty similar shape to the one on the gramophone. That broken glass isn't there on accident. This is someone's science experiment.
Thinking about it, Pointer said he saw Flora was knocked out too. I guess they were both in range of the noise, although Pointer might have been lying.
Personally, I think he was telling the truth about that. It's pretty clear a powerful frequency did pass through Flora's tower. Caused quite a bit of damage too.
All the cracks.
Those cracks didn't appear out of nowhere. Freya's paints, the pink cassette tape, and the gramophone itself, they all sustained similar damage while they were in that room.
That's some seriously powerful vibration, enough to crack metal, enough to knock someone out all the way across a room.
Yeah, that's the one thing I don't get. If the frequency was so powerful and had such a big range, how did the murderer pull it off? Wouldn't they have been in range too? Think about it. They can't have been much further away from the gramophone than Flora was.
They protected themselves.
How?
These are some pretty heavy-duty earmuffs. I think they'd be enough to block out the sound.
Right. Let's go over everything from the start. 1. Freya is painting Flora's portrait. They're listening to music on the gramophone.
2. The murderer is hiding in the attic, wearing earmuffs.
3. The golden beetle starts to emit its hissing noise.
Hold on. How did it know?
The beetle?
Yeah. What triggered it? At that particular moment. Pointer's research said it makes the noise when it feels threatened.
Not sure. Maybe something in the music?
Maybe.
4. Freya and Flora are both knocked unconscious by the vibrations. Freya lands on her back. She drops the brush and palette by her side.
5. The murderer fires the crossbow directly downwards.
6. The arrow is pulled back up on the reel.
7. The murderer leaves the attic, presumably.
8. The door is kicked down. Fitz and Poppy enter the room.
That's it. There's something bothering me.
Just one thing?
I just want to check something. Let's go back to the crime scene.
Let's.
The answer is in the painting. I'm sure of it.
Quite possibly, but
I can see the stars.
It's dark.
yeah, we've got all of that, so
The plant. It's in the book.
What?
Look.
oh yeah.
The plant. It's in the
What?
book. Look.
Okay, do we? Okay, I see the plant is in the book. It usually needs the seeds of the Tantum amica. Pictured. Okay, that's a.
Freya, did you leave us a clue?
Right. It's not green in the painting, at least. Yet, is there?
What's bothering you?
Something that's not here. The thing we didn't find. We know she was holding it during the painting.
Feather.
Flora's ink dip feather?
It was here. In this room. Where'd it go?
We found it somewhere
Found it
else.
somewhere else. We were a little too late to save it.
So it was stolen from the crime scene. And ended up in the incinerator down in the study.
Someone wanted to destroy it, I guess.
But how? How was it stolen from up here in Flora's tower?
Presumably, Flora dropped it when she fell unconscious.
Yeah, and then what? The murderer couldn't have stolen it if they were up in the attic.
So the question is, how could they steal something from a room they weren't able to access? The final clue about the crime scene. Freya left it for us right here.
It's in the unfinished
In
painting?
the unfinished painting. It's not quite a photo, but still, it's an image of the crime scene recorded just before the murder. If only she'd finished it.
Oh, there is.
And then I could be totally
I was
sure.
wrong there.
It's true she never finished it. But she did intend to finish it.
Meaning?
We know more about the painting than what Freya actually got down on the canvas.
Lord, maybe? Or... just look closely. Maybe?
That's not it.
No.
That's not it.
No.
That's not it.
Nope. Probably being dumb here, so let's just... Dash this time. Soul Barrel works. Impressive.
That's not it.
No. Hang on, wait. That's surprisingly simple. Okay, so she was trying to solve the mystery in the flesh. That's presumably Hawkshaw. Soul Bearer works, which was the name of the crab, so... And the way to the middle, saw them all 5. She could do with a little company. Interesting.
That's not it.
No. Freya's drawing.
That's not it.
Drawn on the other sheets.
That's not it.
No.
That's not it.
Nope. We can just go through them all if needed, but intentions for the painting. Oh, wait, there.
Freya
There
prepared all
we
the
go.
colors she was going to need before she started painting.
So it definitely wasn't a mistake, because that's not how these things work. The black paint, the yellow paint was going to be used to paint. Oh wait, no, the red paint? The blood was going to be used into feather. Dropped by the ink
The
dip
blood
maybe?
was going to be used
No,
to
I don't
paint
think-
the ink dip feather dropped by the ink dip bird. Nope.
No. Oh wait, this going to be used to paint this sketch of something
Yellow
sitting in the
paint
window.
was going to be used to paint this sketch of something sitting in the window.
Something in the window. Oh.
That's not it.
No. Bird.
There she is, our little thief.
How long has it been there? Did it hear the whole conversation?
She did. But she's a very good listener.
Hello!
Well, now, I think this has quite served its purpose, don't you?
Penny, why did you...
It's Penelope, if you don't mind. But before we begin, isn't there a certain formality demanding our attention?
I don't know if we're going to be able to, but something sturdy to tie our hands with. Potted flower, maybe?
That's not gonna work.
Real thingy?
Lovely. Now, tell me, what was it that drove you this far? I'm ever so curious.
I just need to know the truth.
Is that right? Interesting.
Why did you do it, Penny? What did Freya do to you?
Absolutely nothing.
So, what? You just hated her indiscriminately?
Freya Fellow was an inspiration to us all. She was possessed of a great energy, the volition to create something from nothing, the willpower to walk beyond her boundaries. She was truly free. Everything I couldn't be.
You know what? I just realized I actually have no idea who Penelope Pointer really is.
Weird, isn't it? Considering we've met her, what is it, 3 times now?
Exactly. How do we know this one isn't a disguise too?
You think you've already hollowed us out, don't you? Only a few short hours at Tangle Tower, and you feel like you've got everyone sussed, unearthed every single one of our secrets.
Not
Nothing
exactly.
but bullet points for your notebook. Go on, indulge me. What does it say in your notes about Penelope Pointer? Suppose I can't argue with that, can I?
Penny, we only know what you choose to tell us, so why not help us out?
Very well. Penelope Pointer is actually not very important at all. She pales in comparison to those who came before her and to those that came after. Living at Tangle Tower, it is very difficult to attain the levels of self-realization you probably take for granted.
You sure this is a Tangle Tower thing and not a you thing?
Perhaps you didn't notice. Not one of them is happy. Not one.
So why stay? Why not just leave?
I thought she did leave. Penny, you said you traveled, didn't you?
I did. Many times I've walked away. It did not help me. You saw the family tree hanging in the grand hall, did you not?
Yeah, it lists a bunch of people who don't live here anymore.
A bunch of people who don't live here anymore. I couldn't have put it better myself. My mother, for one. My father, too.
The other two Remingtons, Poppy's mother Primrose, and her brother Richard.
And Fitz's father.
That's 5. 5 people that might have lived here, but don't.
And that was the first question I wanted answered.
You wanted to know where they'd all gone?
Well, I know where
that,
Richard went.
I wanted to know if I belonged with them. I have no place here.
Not among the Fellows, the Remingtons, or the Pointers. But I felt there must be a reason why everyone else left. Some common purpose they all shared. Perhaps it could be my purpose too.
So, what did you actually do about it?
Nothing I could do at first. Nobody would tell me anything.
The more questions I asked, the fewer answers I got. Then, I found it. I was 19. Same age Freya is now.
Found what?
The study.
The study. The one hidden in the middle of the house.
One
It's
dedicated
right
to all
next to a
those
bedroom.
cryptids, sorry,
Hear
mystids.
voices at night.
That
Deep ones. And the strangest thing, the wall behind my bed would get incredibly hot. For hours on end. The paint would peel. Wallpaper wouldn't stay up. I thought I was cursed. I thought it was something trying to break through. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I found my way in the same way you did. Once you know it's there, it's simple.
So, you got into the study and found the incinerator. That must have been a relief, right?
It was still warm when I found it.
not sure it's
Then
how relieving it
I
could
looked
be.
inside.
The era of
Let's see
Misted
how
Mansion.
thorough you've been. Tell me, do you know what a misted is?
Misted?
We've met one.
Mistids? Sure, yeah.
You're more observant than I thought.
Sorry, what are we talking about?
It's a collective term from before my time. Birds, insects, amphibians, anything living off the lake water. The mutation can take several generations, or it can happen overnight.
Wait, mistids. Like cryptids. Like Bigfoot or whatever.
A
Or
little
Boggy, the guy
egregious,
you've
isn't
met.
it? I suspect that was an intentional parallel. The main difference being mistids are perfectly real. They're just kept secret. Or at least, that was the original plan. As it happened, some got out. Quite a few got out.
How do you know all this?
When I entered the study at 19, I found a single object that rather changed my life. Something which answered my questions while at once creating all new ones.
The study that answered her questions. Children's book, I would suspect, or photo. The notebook.
That's not it.
No.
The 5 missing family
Yes.
members standing together as a single unit, calling themselves the ambassadors of Misted Mansion.
So, the house was renamed from Misted Mansion to Tangle Tower?
And rightly so. The age of Misted Mansion is long past. When I looked inside the incinerator on my first visit to the study, I found nothing but ash. The afterimage of a bygone era denied to me in its entirety. The study, the room at the bottom of the lake itself, all empty shells. I felt my only hope lay with the ambassadors. If I could find them, maybe they'd share the family history that Flora and the others were trying so hard to forget.
How did you track them down?
It was tough. They'd taken almost everything. Books, maps, charts. The creatures themselves, all lost. Taken away or destroyed. But I got lucky. I got a lead. I found one, and he led me to the rest.
And? What happened? Why'd you paint out all their faces?
They didn't help you either, did they?
19-year-old me had imagined they'd all left with a mission. A unified purpose. But they hadn't. They were, in fact, every bit as fractured as the people that still live here. Most of them had left tracking escaped mystids. Some claimed to be researchers, others little more than hunters. All 5
Richard?
completely useless to me.
Even your own parents?
Eventually, I returned to Tangle Tower. I had nowhere else to go. I considered giving up. But instead, I made a decision. There was only one person at Tangle Tower still of interest to me. My dear Uncle Pointer had suddenly made a show of taking up astronomy. A fairly superficial charade. I don't think many people were fooled by it. But I knew it wasn't just a falsehood. It was a mask. Pointer had found something from the era of Misted Mansion.
Golden beetle.
So where did he get the beetle?
I cannot be sure. But I theorize that he received it in the post.
In the post? From who?
Who can say? Someone outside Tangle Tower. But the thought that he would be in contact with such a person, all that time, I decided to take what was owed to me.
So you stole it.
Stealing the beetle turned out to be only the first step. Upon realizing it was gone, Pointer made little effort to disguise his frustration. I asked what was bothering him. He foresaw no risk in sharing a little of the truth with his niece. He told me he'd lost a rare treasure, something he'd been keeping safe. I suggested, innocently, that perhaps it was not lost. Perhaps it had been stolen. He was very ready to believe he'd been the victim of theft. When I offered to call in a private detective, he jumped on the idea. She arrived the next day. Hawkshaw prides herself on her punctuality, as you know.
Why, though? Why go through all that? The name, the costume, and everything?
It's somewhat sad to admit, but I had little use left for Penny Pointer as she was. Hawkshaw afforded me new advantages, opportunities.
But didn't you have to pretend to be working for Professor Pointer?
Well, that was one of the advantages. Pointer was in such a desperate state, he was finally willing to share some of his secrets. On the second day, Hawkshaw explained she needed to be able to search the secret laboratory. Pointer gave in and gave me the code for the harp statue. Reluctantly, but still.
So, you stole Pointer's research?
I would have done, if I'd found anything worth stealing. But he had made remarkably little progress, barely scratching the surface of the beetle's true mystery.
Which is?
She carries an exoskeleton approximately 90% identical to gold. But it's not the 90% I'm interested in. Did you ever question what exactly makes the water here so unique? Before Misted Mansion was built over the lake, before the lake was even a lake, Lord Remington and his wife built a small structure here, a research station, supposedly. Fast forward 2 or 3 generations, and as you saw for yourself, it's been mostly cleared out.
The ambassadors took everything when they left.
And everything they didn't take was burned in the incinerator. However, possessing additional insight, I found something the others had missed. It's not much, but I have what I need.
So, why isn't this the end of the story? Why did you stay? Why did you kill Freya?
It's a question.
Simply put, Freya was too good for me. It's my fault. I pushed her over the edge, unknowingly, but still, I take the blame.
What are you talking about?
Did you know I based the design for Hawkshaw on something Freya painted?
Yes.
That's right. I had assumed it was purely abstract. I just thought it had a good energy. I later discovered it was a figure of some kind, something from Freya's recurring nightmare. For all her vitality, I think Freya was probably the most troubled of all of us. She was desperate to leave Tangle Tower, but she couldn't just walk away. For quite some time, she'd been trying to break into Pointer's laboratory. Freya and her friends were halfway through deciphering those symbols on the harp statue, I believe.
Why did she care about getting into Pointer's lab?
That's exactly what I wondered. At first, I thought perhaps she just wanted to free the beetles. She has a fondness for them. What Pointer was doing upset her significantly. But in fact, I think it was something else. I think she wanted to free Fiona. The real reason Freya was unable to leave Tangle Tower is that she could not get Fiona to agree to come with her. We're now firmly in the realm of speculation, but I think Freya felt that exposing the darker secrets of Tangle Tower, not just to the rest of the family, but to the world, would compromise all three families, and perhaps, somehow, free Fiona from the shackles of her inheritance. That was her plan anyway, but something happened before Freya could find her way into Pointer's laboratory.
She found her way into your study, found your notes, found that photograph. I'm willing to bet she put it all together quicker than we did.
So she worked out what had happened to the 5 ambassadors. Specifically, what you'd done to them when they refused to help you.
Freya had made a promise to paint Flora as a birthday gift, a parting gift no less. She'd be in a locked room, several hours away from her friends. It was my best chance.
But why hide in the attic? And why bother with the beetle at all?
The beetle in the gramophone wasn't for Freya. It was for Flora. She didn't deserve to be involved. She suffered enough. I couldn't get Flora out of the room, but if she could be unconscious, then she wouldn't have to witness anything.
Why the knife? The illusion of the painted knife with the blood.
That was for Fiona. And Poppy too, I suppose. Gave them something to focus on.
You mean it distracted them while you made your escape?
It helped them cope. The very idea of something
Probably
abstract,
both.
something supernatural. I believe it made things marginally less painful for them, initially. Worked on you, too.
So why are you still here? Why not take your first chance and leave?
Well, I've been waiting for an opportunity to get my beetle back. I'd really rather not leave without it.
Wait, it's still here?
It's still inside the gramophone.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh boy.
What's going on?
Poppy, they are both awake.
I can see.
You two all right?
My head hurts. What happened to us?
You were both unconscious. 14 minutes by my count.
Really?
You're both fine. No injuries.
Was it the beetle? In the gramophone? I heard it through the ceiling in my room.
The exact same sound we heard before the murder.
I guess it must have been.
So how did we get down here? What happened to Penny?
Fitz saved both of you, obviously.
When I reached Flora's tower, you were both unconscious, and Penny was crouched down beside you. She had her crossbow on her, but who knows?
Okay.
She may have just been checking you were both asleep.
Did you know that she was the murderer?
Poppy and Fifi suspected her. Apparently, they were pretty close to solving it themselves.
Fitz did not want to believe us, because he liked Penny. A lot.
But what happened? Fitz, what did she do when she saw you?
She jumped out the window.
Oh!
Did she survive?
She did.
I heard something land in the garden outside my room, but by the time I got out there to check, she was already gone.
Hang on. Poppy, why do you have Penny's hat bird?
She left him behind. I found him sitting on the floor in the aviary, all by himself. Poor little thing. The mean lady didn't care about you at all, did she? No, she didn't.
I apologize. Poppy seems to be under the illusion that the bird can understand human language.
So,
Mhm.
Penny got away.
I'm afraid she did.
We had suspected she might try to escape. I was stationed here by the lake's edge. I proved to be an ineffective guard. She took the boat.
Did she take the beetle with her?
Nope,
How do you know?
because it's right here.
It was
Huh.
still in the gramophone. I guess I scared her off before she had a chance to take it.
Poppy,
Which means she's
what are you going to do with it?
prob.
Are you going to give it back to your father?
No, I'm not. It doesn't belong to anyone. So, I'm going to put it on the ground and never bother it again. I think that's what she would have wanted.
Okay. Interesting. It's rather unfortunate she got away, but I think that answers every question. I think. Yes, that's rather bittersweet as an ending, but it's undeniably effective, I would say. Also, I really hope they have a boat we can borrow, because otherwise we're stuck here. Okay. So, there's, hang on, there's a music player. Is there anything else on this? Or no, it's just music, though. Well, I mean, it's kind of what it says. So, Detective Grimoire. It's tricky to get right, as he needs to be a flexible mix of silly and heroic, light-hearted and dramatic. He has a somewhat pretentious manner, projecting the persona of someone more experienced than he actually is. Importantly, he can be totally sincere when he wants to be. And the challenge is his colour palette. Brown, brown and brown. Doesn't need to be a super colourful character, in fact it's important to have contrasts between the different characters. Still, look closely and you'll notice that he's actually comprised of various pinks masquerading as browns. Oh yeah. Detective Grimoire is probably one of the most difficult characters to develop, as there was already a strong identity that existed in the previous games. Felt like he'd need to be a friendly, approachable gumshoe, and I tried to stick to round, gentle shapes while exaggerating his features. I wanted to work towards an iconic silhouette. Wanted to make sure I had a good grasp on how Grimoire would look from different angles as I tackled his animation. Got a bit of a penchant for performance and overwrought gestures, and I think a lot of his personality comes out in his movements. That said, I never want to draw his bouncing hair again. Fair! Entirely fair. Oops. Sally appeared in the previous game with her hair down and long plait. However, finding out for this game, I quickly realised this made for a rather cluttered silhouette, so I changed it to bunches. A key aspect of Sally's face is her eyeshadow, accentuated her slightly unimpressed default facial expression. I like characters who wear those little jackets. To me, they give off a modern adventurous energy. I thought it would be a good outfit for Sally. Sally's personality expanded for this game. Her starting point is slightly bored, but just beneath the surface she has a great deal of passion for detective work and life in general. These drawings show Sally still wearing her hair in the style from the previous game, although Catherine has already started looking for ways to give it a stronger silhouette. Wait, who is that in the bottom right corner? That's the little girl from the previous game. That simple answer to that question. These designs from a much older game, long before it became Tangle Tower version of the game. You can see how both Sally and Grimoire are about halfway towards their Tangle Tower redesign. The early story idea was to include the little girl in the team. Obviously, we changed our minds. Sally was a tricky one to get right. She tends to overstate her actions, but isn't above throwing in a little bit of pretentiousness. I like to think she's mocking how Grimoire indulges in theatrical gestures. I think the payoff is worth the effort, though, as she's one of the characters whose animation I'm most pleased with. fellow. I found the right shape for Flora really early on, and she set the tone for how weird the character designs could be, as how far we could stretch away from typical human anatomy. She wears a simple black dress with absolutely no detail at all. In fact, she exists entirely in monochrome, which hints at the bleak and mournful world in which she inhabits. Since Flora was a very quiet and reserved character, I felt like I wanted to show that as design too. Adam's original sketches of her were very inspiring, and we didn't really move far from them. I really wanted to explore Flora's warm side, as her character felt quite steely and ghost-like. There's a warm side? It's an incredibly rigid character with minimal movement and poses. I really wanted to figure out a way to give her more energy and variety without losing this stoic appearance, including small hand gestures. I made this particular sketch with her hair flowing in the wind, and this became a great way to make her more animated. Flora moves less than anyone, because her one big animation is definitely the heaviest in the whole game. Thankfully, I'm a real sucker for flapping hair and fabric, so I relished an excuse to go all out and make it really character-defining. Please go and talk to her as much as possible so you can see it again and again. I did what I could. Felix fellow. Yes. Our main idea was that he was with Felix, but he was still stubbornly wears his adventurer outfit even though he's stuck indoors. Wanted Felix to look powerful, but somewhat gone to seed with age. Yeah, I'd say you've managed that. Early on, he was a sailor and had a lot more nautical elements in his design. Design for Felix. Was very nearly made it. This design for Felix very nearly made it into the final game. We thought the big pompadour was fun, since it looks like a wave on the hull of the ship. Then one day I decided I didn't like his face, so it totally changed. Fun fact, Felix's dark green trousers are based on my own favourite trousers. As a washed-up old explorer, so I wanted to first understand what he might have looked like in his youthful prime, and what Nola Felix might be trying to hold on to. For the good-looking actors in movies, actors from old adventure movies, slick hair, chiseled jawline, and arching eyebrows. Enjoyed edging him up. Yeah, I can see it, kind of. Always had a nautical theme from the start, so I experimented with old sailor tattoos that could potentially animate during dialogue scenes. This was a little animated scope from the end, but more simplified tattoos remained a part of his final design. Felix had a tricky and very specific head shape, so I spent some time figuring it out from different angles first. The second character I animated, and we used him as a testing ground for a lot of the technical challenges we'd face going forward. Also, tattoos are really annoying to animate. Yeah, I can well imagine. And then Fifi was initially conceived as a character who'd remain sitting down while you talked to her. Figured it would be fun to have her fiddle with her microscope or organise papers on her desk. Eventually I changed my mind, but perhaps this is why Fifi is so short. Fifi's eyes ended up on the side of her head. Combined with the shape of her hair, I always thought it made her look a little bit like a rhinoceros. Fifi's eye lenses were going to have an elaborate telescopic zoom function, but this kind of gimmick has a habit of getting cut from the game. Lenses and microscopes were a big facet of Fifi's character, so it felt natural to incorporate that within her design, giving her a large lens to wear over one eye. It lends itself well to her looking like an eccentric inventor. Her hair's large and outgrown, tied half-heartedly into a bun. She doesn't care much for appearance. Fifi's big baggy sleeves became quite a dominant feature of her design, as I wanted to add a sloppy, childlike quality to her, to make her look less professional looking. That's how the gag of her storing items in her lab coat started to appear. Fifi was the first character I animated, as we knew she was going to be quite limited in her movements. For example, animated and Adam mandated that she doesn't turn her head on her shoulders. She's not one for her theatrics. That said, we planned for some fun animations with that beaker, but they didn't really fit anywhere, so we omitted them. That's well, she is adorable. She is definitely adorable. The point of Hawkshaw initially was to provide a contrast with Grimoire. When Grimoire was friendly, open, and emotionally reactive, Hawkshaw is blunt, stern, and emotionally closed off. As a detective, Hawkshaw is a perfectionist, so her design is all sharp lines and angles and clean lines. She never wastes any energy, even keeping her arms hidden under the cloak unless she needs them. Detective Grimbar's much more accomplished rival, Hawkshaw, is the polar opposite to him. Stern, incredibly smart, and professionally intimidating. I imagined her turning her nose up at Grimoire like she's too good for his company. She uses snappy movements that feel almost mechanically efficient. Everything about Hawkshaw is sharp and correct. The long buttoned-up neck became a defining feature for Hawkshaw, making her seem uptight and rigid. As Hawkshaw developed, she started looking more and more like a villain from a 90s cartoon, and we're okay with that. I mean, it's not the 90s, but at least I don't think so. In the setting, definitely not in the character, but it's kind of a cartoon, and she's a villain. Hawkshaw's cape is a great excuse for me to flex my fabric animating muscles. I loved thrusting a stick, neck, and shoulder piece with her billowing cloth. Her poses in games seem quite limited when you compare them to each other, but I think they do a lot of work in bringing across her haughty, confident personality. And Freya. Specifics of Freya's character took a while to emerge, but from the earliest point, I knew I wanted her to be open-minded and a bit of a hippie. Freya exists in a slightly different space from the other inhabitants. She's very aware of the wider world outside the house. That makes her something of an outsider, even though she is very popular within Tangle Tower. Freya wears a white dress to suggest the purity of her soul. Importantly, it's splattered with the colour from her paint, suggesting she's not afraid of making a mess and going against convention. In her final design, the dress became more of a tunic with a high-waisted belt and long sleeves. I like to think they makes Freya look a bit like a wizard. That's a point. We never figured out what was the deal with her handwriting in that toy. I guess she really was a ghost. Huh. A curious, brave little painter. When I made concepts, I didn't want a stereotypical depiction of an artist, but I couldn't resist the paint splodges. I based her initial sketches off bohemian art students I used to see when I was studying art. Eventually we needed her to feel younger, so this effect became more subtle. At one point I tried to give her a paint blob-like bun, but in the end this felt too close to Fifi's hairstyle. It was important that all three of the younger girls of Tangle Tower felt visually different. We tried a green bob, but it stuck. I never ended up doing any animation of Freya, but I drew these because she's actually one of my favourite characters designs in the game. As I'm sure you'll find out, there's a good deal more to her than just murder victim. Yes, she may have been a somewhat better detective than we are, though given how I was controlling things, that may not be much of a compliment. Fitz was conceived as an insect character, butterflies in particular. Later on he became the gardening character, which is similarly associated with someone quiet and delicate. I wanted Fitz to be super handsome and cool, but in an incidental way. He contrasts with Felix and Pointer, that he has a very subdued ego. Catherine and I really enjoyed the image of a big, muscular man using tiny gardening tools. However, none of those poses made it into the final game. Fitz kept his little glasses right up into production, but I received Josh Tomar's excellent voice samples. After I received, I realized Fitz was becoming more emotionally vulnerable, so I took the glasses away. Fitz was described to me by Adam as someone who was accidentally good-looking. I started to think about those poster boys from boy bands in the 90s and knew I had to try out some classic curtained hair on him. I made Fitz overly muscular because I liked the idea of him seeming like this gentle giant who was intimidatingly large and potentially threatening. When Fitz had glasses, I had a lot of fun imagining him lurking in the shadows, his cold round spectacles staring back at you, which kind of survived in those glowing eyes whenever you clicked on him. I think there are probably more drawings of Fitz on this slide than actual frames of animation in the game. Ultimately, it worked best for him to be almost creepily static. He's a kind soul, but has trouble around people, so limiting his movements help make him come across as tense and uncomfortable. Oh, huh. Just occurred to me, Penny didn't have her headphones when the bug went off and knocked us unconscious, so presumably the reason she didn't have a chance to do anything to us was because she was knocked for a loop too. Maybe not, but that's what I'd go with. Professor Pointer. Pointer was conceived as a fairly traditional professor archetype, the sort of person who would have a garden shed full of half-finished inventions. At this stage in the process, I wasn't sure what shapes to use. I just knew I wanted to be short and spindly, so his physicality would contrast with his rival, Felix Fellow. By this point, we had landed on the idea of Pointer being a spaced-out astronomy professor with an airy, philosophical manner. He was given large eyes for staring into space and long arms to make sweeping gestures. Or she pulled them out after. Her hands were tied, but possible, I suppose. His hair was designed to resemble a book, a roof, and a bad wig all at the same time, which it succeeded at admirably. An academical-looking astronomer with a faraway look in his eyes. He's hiding a few secrets, so I wanted him to seem distrusting and slightly slimy. But I also imagined someone who looked like he might lecture at a British university, so a lot of tweed clothes. I even tried hair that looked like a book resting on his head. As an astronomer, I envisioned Pointer rapidly tinkering around with his many mechanical apparatus, and I started to think about how his fingers could seem as clickety-clackety as his equipment. I liked the idea of his fingers feeling spider-like, adding to his creepy undertones. Pointer was probably the character who was most similar to me, and I loved drawing his kooky, pretentious arm waves. The globe was going to be a prop, but just one that was one of several things that just didn't fit or got left out. Also, that thing on his head, a hair, a book, or a birdhouse roof? It's a mystery. And Penny Pointer, our murderer, though this might not admit that. I thought it would be fun if Penny had multiple birds about her person, with whom she could speak during conversations with Grimoire, perhaps even interrupting her mid-sentence. This eventually boiled down to the one bird on her head, and instead of talking to it, the joke is that Penny simply treats it as if it were a normal hat. Penny is a complex character. At this stage of the design process, I was focused on her duality as both a cool, elegant femme fatale and a pouty, petulant young woman. Penny's outfit is quite simple, inspired by 1950s high fashion. Her giant bird gloves accentuate any gestures she chooses to make with her arms, giving her an inescapably melodramatic and hammy energy. Penny is Tangle Tao's femme fatale, so we really lent into that. I imagined her as a very glamorous and privileged woman from the 1950s. A lot of her style is reminiscent of that period. As the bird-themed character, Adam originally designed her to have a bird in her hair, which I then stylized onto her like a fancy hat. I love the idea that Penny could be completely composed but drop this facade and become sinister. There's a sketch of her reading a book surrounded by birds, and then slamming that book shut mid-sentence, scaring them away. Penny ended up becoming a real fan favourite. I think the animation plays a part in that. Oh, definitely. She's probably the most emotive of the cast, but so bringing that out in her animations was really important. Her weird wing arm sleeve things were challenged to move convincingly, and I think it was worth it, I would agree. And Poppy. My first concept of Poppy was someone who doesn't really want to talk to you. Instead, she resolutely focuses on her piano, protected by a shroud of hair that falls all the way to the floor. All this adds up to give a ghostly appearance, and, by extension, Poppy's music room became something you might find in a haunted mansion. I spent a while trying to find the right shapes for Poppy's head and face. For some reason, the moment it began to work for me was when I gave her the little snake-like nose. A crucial detail of Poppy's design is the single ear poking out. I think it gives her a bit of much-needed humanity and vulnerability. Didn't notice that, but yeah, I could see it. Since Poppy was a shy, grungy/gothic teenager, I started with sketches of her as mopey, badly postured, and very purple. Adam's original sketches included really long hair, and I liked that it felt like gravity was pulling her downwards. The hair started to look like a thick curtain, which felt appropriate for her gothic theming. Poppy's poses always centered around sitting at the piano, so to bring more personality to her, I played with the idea that her long locks could be used in inventive ways. Since she's so reserved, I imagined she would use her hair as a device to veil herself from other people, rarely ever revealing herself. Poppy was simultaneously one of my favourite and least favourite characters to draw, but her hair was great fun to animate, but also took absolutely ages. It was very important to me that it would have a right weight and softness to it. Also, I referenced some actual video of the piano player who plays her theme for that particular animation. Cool. So the applications. Clues and okay. I'll read them all, why not? Imagine Freya being given the short straw and being tucked away in the boiler room, so she had to make do with what she had. What resulted was an intimate industrial space that Freya managed to bring a lot of warmth and creativity to through. Since you never meet Freya, it was a great way to deliver some of her personality. Despite the lack of natural light, I think Freya's room is one of the nicest spaces in all of Tangle Tower. The large, ominous painting leaning against the wall suggests Freya was someone who was troubled, but willing to look her anxieties in the face. Yes, I can see that. Fifi has the biggest room in the house, but she doesn't care for it. I imagine an untidy-looking Victorian lab where she could conduct her experiments. Later added elements that would point her be more of a messy teenager, mattress on the floor, empty cans of soda and papers tucked to the windows. The key to this room is the juxtaposition between the chandelier, not pictured, hanging above the messy mattress on the floor. The idea was to hint at how Fifi isn't especially keen to rise to her position within the household. She'd rather just be a teenager. I do wonder what will happen to her after all this. At first, this room was set higher up in Tangle Tower, and I imagined this sophisticated, ornate-looking attic space. Taxidermy played a huge role in decorating it, as the people who used this room are avid collectors. We wanted this chamber to feel darker and more hidden. That's why we made the design to add an aquarium through the center of the mansion. It added a whole new feel to the room. A windowless room with the only real source of light coming from the tube of water really added to the creepy atmosphere. Yes, it did. Originally, yes, we did. Originally designed Penny's room to look like it belonged to some elegant aristocratic and also a bit of a fairy tale princess. Initially, we were going to include a secret doorway through a fireplace, but we decided against it. I wanted Penny's room to feel purposefully romantic, and I went as far as having a cherry blossom branch come through the window. We imagined that Penny was constantly travelling, so piles of suitcases became a key visual for her in her room. This layout image shows an earlier version of the puzzle in this room. It was originally connected to a suitcase tucked under the bed. Later, we had the idea for the birdhouse puzzle, and the suitcase was swapped out for a little tea set, where Penny sits and drinks tea with her birds. Aviary, giant birdcage attached to the side of Tangle Tower that serves as an aviary. It was designed designing a more interior space that was more circular structurally. Oh, there's some words for you. This is somewhere Penny spends a lot of time, so it only felt right that this space should feel elegant. The aviary is a strange room in the sense that it has both indoor and outdoor elements. It worked on blending elements visually, having gutters for rainwater to escape and frames on the windows to keep it feeling domestic at the same time. Some time after this layout image was created, we decided to add the mirror and the writing desk to the aviary. The idea was to make it feel more lived in, as you can imagine Penny spending most of her time here. Library is where you can find Fifi studying away. I had some early ideas of a grand laboratory with so many books that some would be suspended off the ceiling. I liked the idea of huge round windows that would put our focus towards it. We eventually scaled down, but I kept the big window. The library is a shared space, but it's also Fifi's haven, in which she has created a little space for herself. Her science experiments and test tubes spill out into the ordinary-looking library. One of the challenges of writing dialogue for the library was coming up with various excuses as to why Grimoire and Sally don't read any of the books. Not sure Grimoire seems like the most bookish type, but still I suppose it's a worthwhile consideration. There's also some stories hints in the room. For instance, someone has taken all the insect books off the shelves. Yes, the Grand Hall. Very early on in development, we visited Leighton House, London, which had influence on the feeling of the mansion. Every overly embellished room felt unapologetically different from the next, and one side of the house felt completely different from the other side. Yeah, that's how a lot of those houses are. Staircases give an early idea of the differences between the two families. The wooden, down-to-earth staircase of the Fellows and the ornate, sophisticated stairway to Pointer Tower. The fireplace wedged between the two is actually very important later on in the game. Yes, we noticed that. It's very beautiful, but I think the Grand Hall is perhaps the most normal room in Tangle Tower, in a good way. As you enter this neutral space, you think, oh, yeah, classic murder mystery in a big mansion, got it. Gives the particular eccentricities of the other rooms something to contrast with. Yep, that's definitely right there. We knew from the start this is where you'd first encounter Poppy, hauntingly playing her piano. I imagined a trail of discarded music sheets that would lead you to her. I felt like piano could be this messy little workspace. It's reminiscent of Beethoven's. The room is heavy and draped to match Poppy's vibe. The big theme of the Tangle Tower building is the idea of nature taking over and creeping in, covering the ceiling with foliage added to that suppressive feeling. I love the idea of Poppy looking like a spectre silhouetted against the bright windows. My favourite detail of the music room is the moss and foliage along the ceiling. It gives the room a mystical forest ambience. In real life, plants growing through the ceiling like that would probably be a problem. Yep, that's something to be concerned by, but frankly, on the list of concerning things in Tangle Tower, it ranks fairly low. Much like everything else in the game, I didn't want this greenhouse to feel stereotypical. Instead, I started to think about it as being more like a giant glowing terrarium. Based the interior of Victorian greenhouses, much like the ones you find in Kew Gardens. Knew before sketching that this greenhouse would be unique because of the strange plant life. I wanted to push the dense shadowiness, so it could feel like someone or something could easily hide inside, even someone as big as Fitz. Despite all the wonderful plants, my favourite thing about the greenhouse is actually the tile floor. It really ties the room together. The main feature of this garden was that it contained a secret door that would be found somewhere later in the game. The door had to be hidden in plain sight and not give away its existence too early on. I mean, I kind of figured it was a door, I just couldn't really open it. I sketched a few possible options, mostly involving garden ornaments, but most of it felt convoluted. I mean, the idea of this location having a dual purpose, I experimented with composition switching focus simply with a change of lighting. At the beginning of the game, the pathway leads your eye through the mansion, but later in the game, the lighting changes to bring your focus to the secret door. From the earliest planning stages, I knew I wanted this game to take place in a large house. However, we were keen to find as much variety as possible within that setting, and elaborate gardens were an obvious choice. The various statues were good for environmental storytelling too. Yes, particularly the continuing focus on cryptids/mystids carried over from the last game. The stone square is where you first meet Hawkshaw. We wanted the presence to feel disconnected from the house, but very official. I really liked the idea of Hawkshaw having a mobile office and a handy desk that could open from within a suitcase, which considering Penny's penchant for suitcases and travelling makes a lot of sense. A wonderful rough painting of the stone square by Catherine. I like how this view of the stone square shows other areas, the gardens on the left, the main entrances at the back, and the greenhouse on the right. We needed a neutral location where Detective Hawkshaw could set up her office without being in anyone's way. She isn't native to Tangle Tower, so we thought she could be outside the main building. The mobile desk thing is very convenient, unless it were to rain, I suppose. Lake's Edge. Goal of this location was to introduce the unique setting of the game. The water has special qualities, and we wanted to sell that idea visually. When creating it, I was thinking about iridescent oil and swirling marbling inks. Even though Tangle Tower is isolated on a very small island off the lake, I wanted players to start off a little way away from the building itself. That way, there's a build-up of anticipation as they approach the house and the crime scene. Main entrance, wanted the front door of the mansion to feel strange, much like the rest of the tower. The door started out looking somewhat Art Nouveau, but I felt it wasn't grand or inviting enough. After looking at a bunch of themed and haunted mansions, I'm not sure whether you mean haunted mansions as in like tourist attractions / rides, or actual quote-unquote haunted mansions, but well, I suppose possibly both. I tried a round archway and it made the door more impactful. It's like a hobbit hole. I really liked the contrast of the ornate, homely front door that was surrounded by giant tree roots and moss, almost like some sort of undiscovered temple. The main entrance was one of the areas we returned to later on to add more points of interest. For instance, you could see this layout drawing doesn't yet include the statue of Lord Remington. Fitz's room. This room is the simplest in the whole house to reflect Fitz's character. He spends most of his energy and time in the greenhouse, so he pays little attention to his living quarters. It was quite difficult to make this room visually appealing without adding anything. Originally, we wanted to include a shrine to Penny in Fitz's room, and for it to be the only area of warmth and colour in his space representative of his real-life relationship with her. We substituted this for a single card from Penny that he displays on his shelf fondly next to one of his plants. That's a shame. The concept of a room with virtually nothing in it made for a couple of fun lines of dialogue between Sally and Grimoire. In some abstract way, Grimoire is vaguely aware that he's playing through an adventure game, and he is baffled to find a room with nothing to examine. Poppy's room. I knew this bedroom had to belong to a gothic, reclusive, angsty teenager. Wanted to include a little pagan imagery, but didn't want to use any symbols that might mean anything specific. Most of the iconography was a vague nod to that theme. Cute, giant, gothic, ornate bed. It felt right for Poppy's bed to be as dramatic as she is. I included thick, heavy curtains and drapes mirroring her long hair. The octopus chandelier was meant to have 8 arms, but I made the mistake when drawing the final image, and it gave her an idea for a joke in the script. Poppy's room is my favourite location in the entire game. Catherine does such a good job of designing it, especially goes well with Poppy's music by Raphael Benjamin Mayer. Yeah. Workshop. Started by sketching dioramas of an adventurer's bedroom, since I knew this room would have many oddities and collected treasures. I wanted every aspect of the room to feel unique, including the light fittings. Fun fact, the giant pufferfish lamp was based on a real-life lamp found in the Rivers Museum in Oxford, England. Since Felix spends his time reminiscing about his adventures, I thought it appropriate for his room to be the hull of an upside-down ship. You can even see it poking out at the side of the Tangle Tower building. The sheer number of objects in this room make it seem like it might be hiding hundreds of clues. However, most of the objects are just random trinkets collected by Felix. Almost all of them spark dialogue between Grimoire and Sally, though. The rooftop garden. A romantic setting nestled between two of the residents' bedrooms. It's a secret meeting spot between the Pointer and Fellow Towers. Something of a Romeo and Juliet theme going on, so I included a lot of romantic visuals and iconography. It was very inspired by 18th century Rococo paintings. This layout image features a giant stone bat. Yes, bat out of the stream, instead of a giant stone frog it eventually became. The unique feature of this area is that it doesn't play any background music, just the ambient sound designed by Callum Bowen. Yes, I noticed that. It was a little unnerving, as I suspect it was intended to be. For a little while, Pointer had a telescope so big he would have to climb up a small tower to reach it. As elements of the story developed, we felt like a much smaller telescope would be more appropriate to Pointer's character. Particularly given that the point it was focused on was maybe a couple dozen yards away. Probably a bit more. It's a big house, but it's not that far away. Because this room mirrors Flora's room because it sits at the top of one of the towers, hence its round structure. I enjoyed theming this room a lot. Church murals inspired the starry night ceiling covered in constellations. The larger window in the astronomy tower's ceiling suggests ceiling of word missing there, I think, suggests that perhaps at one time this room was home to much larger and more impressive equipment. For story reasons, it was important that the desk in the corner looked suspiciously neat and tidy, because all of his research was done down here in the laboratory. We knew we wanted this place to have a different tone to the rest of the game, as it's quite a pivotal moment in the narrative. I wanted it to feel moody and uncomfortable, but also exciting to explore. I really liked the visual of candlelight highlighting the giant carcasses of insects, because it looked so creepy and alien. When we initially had the idea for the secret laboratory, there were 3 rooms dedicated to researching different aspects of the ecosystem: plants, bugs, and water. We realised this felt a little unnecessary, and in the end we folded all of those elements into one single room. Some context sets for a plant lab, a room which was eventually merged with the insect lab. And possibly even a few elements ended up in the greenhouse. Flora's Tower, the scene of the crime. Flora's room is set at the top of Fellow Tower. I was keen to get some eerie symbolism in there, and I loved the idea of adding an eye into the ceiling, gazing down at the murder, as if the tower itself knows the truth. Not to mention that was where the murder weapon came from. There are many important things to examine in this room, and we put a lot of thought into where items would be placed, making sure everything was balanced. We opted for a dreary, washed-out palette for this room, not only to make Flora's bleak Miss Havisham vibes, to match the vibes, but also so it felt like the life had been somewhat sucked out from it. Flora's tower was the most important room to get right. We spent a long time tweaking the elements, considering how the player might explore the room, what they'd examine first, what they might miss, etc. The drapes were supposed to be blowing in the wind, but we never got it to work properly. Fair enough. The lowest level. A minimal room with a huge window that opens out onto the lake floor. This room had to feel old, as this was the first part of Tangle Tower that was built a very long time ago. There was going to be a huge puzzle game in here involving multiple levels of the mansion, but it never happened. Everything about this room suggests years of disuse, except for the single candle, which is inexplicably lit. The attic. I wanted this room to feel threatening, a place where you feel like something bad happened, something you weren't meant to see. The foreboding red palette and freakish shadowy figures added to that feeling of discomfort. The idea of framing a room with large silhouetted foreground objects, in this case the stuffed werewolf, was inspired by art from classic 1990s adventure games. It's a good way to make a real and feel claustrophobic. Oh yeah, I can honestly think of a couple of examples off my head. Attic. Oh, yep. So that's the locations. Now the clues. Okay, a lot to read here. Strap in. Tangle Tower has been built up over a timeline, so it looks pieced together. Each room within is unique, and I wanted this had to be felt from the outside. I wanted characteristics of the inhabitants to be seen just by glancing at it. Nature also plays a huge part in the story, so we made that part of the design. Tangle Tower is the heart of the game, so we didn't want this to feel like an ordinary murder mystery mansion. We wanted it to feel iconic, strange, and most importantly, be inviting for players to explore. I started thinking of weird-shaped buildings that could look like animals, referencing totem poles and unusual-looking rooftops. Some of Catherine's early sketches of a Tangle Tower's architectural elements. In the bottom left is a drawing showing how Tangle Tower and the surrounding area even has its own weather system. I really like Catherine's painting with Grimoire and Sally silhouetted in the foreground. It's a bit of a shame that this moment never made it into the game. A little bit, yeah. Paintings by Catherine, working out how Tangle Tower would look in its cross-section, specifically using the map screen. This kind of doll's house approach is pretty similar to another SFB Games project, Haunt the House. Oh, remind me of that debacle, why don't you? Not the game. That was, wasn't great for streaming. It was kind of fun in a casual way. It's just that stream didn't exactly work out. So, Grimoire's first clue was a juggling act to get the right visual information onto one clue image. We tried not to show dead bodies in Grimoire games. White lines always work a treat. The brushy art style of Tangle Tower made it tricky for this portrait to feel like it had actually been painted by someone. With that in mind, I decided to create the first concept art of this portrait with real paints, as I felt it would feel more natural and loose than my normal digital painting methods. Very, very clever. Very appropriate. Works very well. Based on ornate Fabergé eggs, the prototype puzzle that was made for this clue meant that gems became a defining feature of its design. The key thing about this gramophone was that it had to play cassette tapes. My main challenge was finding a way to adding that functionality without losing that vintage look and feel. This was fun to concept. A nod to the 90s era and the idea of over-decorating your colourful possessions with stickers. Wanted this to be an object you may feel embarrassed about when you are older and much older and cooler. Definitely based on things I personally owned when I was growing up. Some designs for the bottles of paint. There are two types of paint bottles in the game, so they had to feel similar enough, but still have small recognizable differences, which they absolutely did. This paint palette hides a big secret, so the paint blobs are placed very specifically. There is a reason some paints have been used and others haven't, which I didn't notice for a long time. Which, again, is getting one something past me is not that much of an achievement, but it still worked. So A selection of carved models of Felix in heroic poses. They say a lot of Felix's sense of self-grandeur. They were originally going to be dioramas of his triumphant adventures, which included Flora, but we decided to simplify. Felix is not a very good carver despite his enthusiasm. I imagined him clumsily working on a model, getting impatient and thinking that's good enough, and then prematurely moving onto the painting stage. The result is crude wooden shapes that vaguely resemble their real-life counterparts. Figuring out the drawing styles of different characters of the game was fun, but also essential to the mystery. I wanted it to be obvious that Freya was clearly more skilled at it than the other characters. Freya painted this of a recurring nightmare she had been having. I wanted this particular painting to stand out and feel a lot darker and abstract compared to her other works. The challenge was to encourage players to feel like there might be something recognizable in the painting, but it still remained mostly ambiguous, which... That one I did. I noticed the resemblance, but it was... I said it wasn't, but I certainly wasn't... It was still fairly ambiguous. I didn't hit on it. I thought it was curious. A quick sketch for the ripped photo featuring Poppy, Fifi, and Freya. At this early stage, all three girls were holding diaries. Designing the ink-dip bird centered around its unique tail feather, which looks very similar to a blood-stained knife. Its final bird design mirrors Flora's tall, bowling pin-like structure. Oh, yeah. Exploring ways to make this clue look degraded and damaged, as this cassette had been had been lying underwater for a while. Yes, impressive it still played, though I don't know how. I don't know how durable cassette tape is. The tape in the cassette is. I'm not certain it would, but then again, it was. I don't know. Sketches of a peculiar statue you see in the garden. If you've played any of the previous Grimoire titles, you may recognize the amphibious creature playing the harp. This is one of 3 times you'll see this musical fellow throughout the game, and we wanted to feel like this one was battered by the outdoor elements. A rough painting of a mysteriously open letter. The envelope is crumpled to show that someone had crunched it up and thrown it away. I tried to make the font slightly illegible to avoid localization issues later in development. What? Actually, it does. What's taking so long? I was dependent on you to be done by now. Have you lost sight of the objective? You grow to be, or seem to be abusing your position? I told you before, there's nothing of interest down there. Look, Blowbeak, look, everywhere, I think. Or anywhere. Look elsewhere. Look elsewhere. There. This shall take a sketch of a mysterious lens that later connects to another clue. It was important that this clue's function remain a mystery for us as long as possible, so it couldn't look too specific. I think the brass look of it helped hide its true purpose quite a lot. It did indeed. I even when I was looking at the crossbow, it took me a while to realise it was the scope. Once again, experimenting with the weirdness of Tangle Tower's ecosystem and plant life, here I was trying to figure out how to make the fruit feel recognizable, but also slightly evolved and special. Even the soil needed to feel particularly unique. Another amphibious statue, but this time someone has used it for some mysterious experiments. Everyone associates broken wine glasses with high-pitched sounds, right? Well, yes, though I didn't really connect it to a wine glass. As you can see, I got a little carried away drawing on 8 bird cages. Eventually, I opted for a shape that mirrored the turrets of Tangle Tower. The bird footstand was Adam's idea, which really added a nice, weird quirk to a very ordinary object. These clues came from the same place, so there is a reason why the potting and soil are the same. I had a fun time inventing a flower that looked very familiar to one of Tangle Tower residents. This clue is unique in that it is somewhat forged. I wanted it to look almost orchestrated, so the writing is purposefully crazed and the paper crumpled, but conveniently not ripped. I imagined this sheet to be taken from a vintage music book for children, so I included a page number. The musical notes seen on it would eventually be the correct notes provided by a composer, Raphael Benjamin Mayer. Sketches of a photo of a younger Fifi and Freya, and a sunnier, unrecognizable Poppy before she entered her gothic teenager stage. The first time we started to think about what the golden beetle and all insects could look like in Tangle Tower's strange ecosystem, they needed to look like they were made of precious metals and materials. The beetle's hard outer shell also featured crystals quite gem-like, so it was easy to imagine these shells being made of something valuable. This decorative, dangerous-looking trowel was the first clue I started doing concepts for. We were developing the story constantly throughout our development, and was one of the first clues we nailed down narratively. Several designs of a cute diary that clearly belongs to a young person, but imprisoned by a strange, over-engineered lock. Never has a diary looked more secret. The statue designed the earmuff clue as one of the many times I had to make a contemporary object feel timeless. I wanted Tangle Tower to feel like it was in a bubble without any nod to the world outside it or any specific time periods. Trying out different combinations of feather colours and patterns, a lot of these feathers are meaningless. Each one had to feel very different from the others, but equally as interesting to hide more significant ones. Yes, once again, designing a strange object feels like it functions, but you don't know what for. The fact that this was one part of a bigger clue helped a lot of it in making it look even more ambiguous and strange. Freya sketch capturing a rare moment of Flora being affectionate with a feathered friend. Freya sketches were always a great way to show images from the past without using photographs or flashbacks. Secret research, is this... That's includes too, yeah. The opened paper and the bug research were used by the same person, so the paper type had to match. Each section of research refers to a different part of the Tangle Tower ecosystem. This particular book needed to feel older than the others, but also feel like it's something a child would read, so we had a lot of research urging vintage children's books. As you can see, my ability to come up with inspiring names and creature names isn't my greatest talent. Inkdip Bird, Badger Deer, Snake Thing, and Frogman. This was a chance to explore the building's history. For instance, Freya's room was converted from a storage room, and the rooftop garden used to actually be the top of the house. For clarity, the building's diagram matches the doll's house style view from the in-game map. But it does make you wonder, are there other rooms? A kitchen, maybe? A bathroom? Well, a lack of either of those things might explain why so many of its inhabitants are so screwed up. Sketch of a mysterious metal stick. I wanted to confuse players of its true purpose, so my bluff was to make it look like it could be something like a clock hand or a fireplace poker. Wasn't that confusing, to be honest, but I could see it. What an image of Flora from happier times. She's sitting with her father and a little family of inkdip birds. This rough version features a small detail on the ground at the bottom of the image. It's a bit of a shame it didn't make it into the final version. Yes, and I think I know why Penny was so, wanted to stab that. Yeah, Ben, there are so many books and notebooks found in the games, and I always tried our best to make each one of them feel unique, so the clues felt varied. This notebook was used by someone obsessive / manic, feverishly piecing together findings and theories. A design board found later in the game. It looks like it's for designing some sort of outfit. Paper types and drawing styles play a major part in the clues throughout the game, and we were always careful to keep the differences subtle, though. It's a super rough version of the photos found in the study. The shield they're holding was a story element that got removed entirely. From right left to right, Primrose Pointer, Pandora Pointer, Buck Bradley, Richard Remington, Flint Fellow, and Lord Fellow. I wanted to show ashes, but it was important to show some evidence of what had been burned in the first place. Making the burnt items look scorched but sort of recognisable was a little challenge. Multiple sketches of a strange modified crossbow and how it would work. This clue is made up of multiple clues. We need to figure out the logistics of this weapon as a whole and how everything could connect together and feel related without giving too much away. Quite satisfying. And okay, that seems to be everything. So, you know what, let's, assuming we can, just head in and look through just to see what we've figured out. What, like, if there are any loose ends. Red ink dip bird. Yeah. Main page. Oh. Paint. Just painting the model, but flora. Possibly a bit of red herring. That's the diary, and we figured out what Frey was doing. It's a telescope, so we know that was all crap. Also, she. One moment. Penny would explain how. Yeah, that seems to make sense. How she could have, since no one else left the tower, how she could have gotten changed. Yep. Penny's room. So that does somewhat hint at her disconnected nature from him and from reality. Admitted it was a rare insect specimen. Yep, he was. Okay. Spent time together. Okay. The drawing, case file, damaged tape. Reaction from the wooden toy. Statue. Yep. Know what's going on with that. It's like the egg. Telephone. Now it's cracked. For his drawings, or one that wasn't drawn by her. Yeah, got that. Painting. Do I have a promise to keep to yep. Models on a trowel. Accomplices. Red herring, as the concept art note said. Beetle, statue, 4 feathers. Drawing, and the real thingy. Secret research, yes. So that was the. So we saw the Soul Bearer and the Silver Snake. We know roughly what happened to the ink dip, and the amphibie was seems to be Boggy from the last game. So at least we know one of them's still around. Metal rod. Damaged photo. Building plans. Yep. Group photo. Yes. Now, presumably, if that is Richard, which it may not be, it may be Lordfellow, but if it is, presumably she didn't. Since we know who killed him, that seemed like more of a coincidence. Pinard, yes, a notebook. Oh, yeah, fifth hand is located. Rest of them. West his friend into the music room for experiments. It works, perhaps too well. Laboratory was another disappointment. All that effort for what? He's even more charged than I could have guessed. But for the bottom nice view, it's mostly cleaned out, but I have what I need. She got in, she was careful, nothing was moved, but I know it's time. That was so Freya, and hmm. Right. Okay, that seems to be all the loose ends neatly tied up, with the exception of the potential ghost, but that's, I suppose, a mystery for another day. Yeah, I don't think I'm pretty certain she wouldn't have left it, since A, the handwriting was exactly the match, which could be forged, but seems like a lot of thing, and also because she wanted us to be on the wrong track, I don't think she's so. Well, as I say, that will remain a mystery, I suspect. But all other mysteries are neatly tied up, so I think that will do it for today. Ending a little earlier than I like. I did have another game prepared, but since I didn't know how long was left in Tangle Tower, but the thing is, it requires a bit. I was intending, if I did finish earlier, to go off stream and set everything up, which would probably take about 15 minutes, which would mean I'd have about 15 minutes. I'd have about 15 minutes of gameplay, which doesn't seem exactly worthwhile. So I think that'll do it for the stream. Uh, um, so yeah, I will be be back on Thursday with something extremely different from this. But yeah, that was Tangle Tower. Neat little game, very nice. I like it a lot. I hope you did too. And bye bye.